about 11 minutes and some change. Guardians 8, Giants 1. As the Giants 51-74. Is anybody still counting that at this point? I am, because I'm a stickler for accuracy here. That is a new low, by the way. 23 games under 500, a new rock bottom in a season that has been full of rock bottoms for the San Francisco Giants. Carson Whisenhunt lit up. 3 in the first, 2 more in the second. Joe Adell with another driven in the fourth. He drove in the first 6 runs of the ball game for the Guardians, and he ends up 3 for 4. And you look at Bryce Eldridge, he goes deep for the Giants' lone run of this one. But Carson Whisenhunt showing maybe you can't just pencil him into the 2027 rotation, as the Giants are desperately searching for anybody that could join Logan Webb and Landon Roop whenever 2027 winds up getting rolling here after the labor stoppage that appears to be inevitable come next spring. So 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. The number to jump in and join the conversation. Again, it is Sportsphone on this Tuesday night. So JD with you. We're going to talk some Giants for as long as you want to talk Giants. I've sort of got it bookmarked, and we've got Jacob Violante in the Daly City studios here tonight on the leader. I've got it bookmarked at anywhere between 7:30 and 7:45 that I'd like to keep the Giants conversation going. But at 23 under 500, I can understand it if people are long since apathetic about talking about this team, let alone raging about it at 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. But we are here for you. Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line is open as well. We appreciate everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch here on this fine Tuesday as the Giants get the road trip going. 3 in Cleveland, 3 more in Boston coming up on the weekend. And it was just ugly, and it was ugly early with Carson Whisenhunt giving up what ended up being the longest home run for any Cleveland Guardian this season, a 455-foot blast deep, high up into the left field bleachers. I was at that ballpark back in 2018 when the Warriors were playing the Cavs in the NBA Finals and went to a game on an off night. I think it was a random Tuesday. And he hit it pretty much where I was sitting, that high up in the left field bleachers, and you don't think you're going to get one. I mean, that's one of the longer home runs you've seen. And I had on the MLB Mix channel the Guardians telecast, the audio from that I was able to get via that channel, and they were saying it was one of the longest home runs they've seen in recent memory hit in that ballpark, period, by Joe Adell. Adell drives in 6. Again, Carson Whisenhunt not pitching well on the road and not pitching well of late after starting off pretty well in his 2026 campaign. But you look up now, and Whisenhunt, for the year, has an ERA of 7.03. The 6 earnings, 7 runs total, 9 hits. And, oh, by the way, not the best look for the Giants after their manager 2 days ago calls him out for playing what appeared to be, in his mind, a junior college level type game, to not really be able to field balls cleanly. And you had Bryce Eldridge with the drop on the double play that easily should have been turned. And this team it's a pretty brutal look, frankly, in the aftermath of Buster Posey announcing that Tony Vitello is going to be back for another season. And I think it does sort of raise the question, while wins and losses are certainly not going to tell the story here over the final 5.5, 6 weeks of this Giants season, how they look, and I think especially how they look now that Buster Posey is not just given the vote of confidence, but something that was obvious in stating, hey, Tony Vitello is going to be back and be the manager in 2027. And then they go out and, whether it's ineffective pitching, poor hitting, aside from the Eldridge bomb, it just looks like a team that continues to be pretty inept on a night-in, night-out basis. And so I wonder, it'd have to be pretty bad to change course, but not a great look for the Giants in this one. And again, not a great look for Carson Wisenhunt overall. So 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Lone bright spot, as I mentioned, the Bryce Eldridge bomb leading off the second, but other base running errors and defensive miscues. Just kind of your normal bunch of boxes checked for the Giants on a night where they get drubbed in Cleveland 8-1. We'll set the table there. We'll take a quick timeout. We'll line up the phone lines, 808 KNBR. We are going to talk to Guy Haberman. He was down at the joint practice between the 49ers and the Chargers, which took place earlier today, preseason game number 2 coming up on Thursday. We'll have some thoughts on that as well. But your phone calls to get this going and more Giants thoughts. It's John Dickinson at Sportsphone. Giants lose to the Guardians 8-1. We're here. We're talking about it on the Sports Leader.
Now, from the O'Donnell Financial Group Sports Desk. Learn more at odfigroup.com. O'Donnell Financial Group, because planning is a process, not a product.
Giants lose to the Guardians 8-1. It did not look good out there, but that's okay. We got Giants baseball tomorrow, 2:40 pregame, 3:40 first pitch. But before that, we got JD on Sportsphone, KNBR, serving it all up for you. And then he's talking to Guy Haberman after that. And then after that, we got Larry Kruger with Niners Nightly, talking Diners. Shout out Larry Violante, certified Giants fan, certified Niners fan forever.
Giants fans, this is your hub to have your voice heard. Sportsphone KNBR. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
Here it is, and there's a swing, and there's a high drive out into deep right center field, way back there, and adios, pelota! So Eldridge gets one right back, another home run for him against a left-hander. It's 3-1 Cleveland.
Got to be one of, if not the only bright spot for the Giants in this one as they lose 8-1 to the Guardians. Maybe Trent Harris and his 2 innings of scoreless relief. Giants get beat 8-1. They are 23 under 500 here. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Sports phone on a Tuesday. JD with you. 808 KNBR, the number. 415-808-5627. It's a Triple J show tonight with JD hosting. We've got Jacob Violante in the Daly City studios. What's going on, Jacob? Good to be with you, man, as always. Been a while since we've worked together, but always a pleasure, brother.
Right back at you, JD. Even if we have to follow these Giants, man, it's always good with you, bud.
Yeah, we got Jordan is in there as well tonight. She's helping out Jacob and cutting the sound, and not a lot of highlights to cut tonight, so don't really have to worry about that as much. We'll see what Tony Vitello has to say after this one. But always great to have Jordan on hand. So, yeah, Triple J's here on the Sports Leader. Let's get to the phones. 808-KNBR, 415-808-5627. We'll get it rolling with Oscar in Oakland tonight here on Sports Phone on the Sports Leader. What's going on, Oscar?
Hey, JD and Jacob. It was a great show. Everyone's happy you're on. We're just not too happy about being 23 games under 500. Since the Devers trade, we're now 33 games under 500. So if you do the math, and he's going to be here 7-8 more years, and it's only been a little over a year, you do the math. How many games is that? 8 times what? 30? 33? It's 200 games under 500 if it continues. I mean, it's incredible. And plus we gave up James Tibbs, who's going to come up next year as a batting champion and a home run champion for the Dodgers. I'm predicting it right now. Triple Crown winner. And Kyle Harrison, soon to be Cy Young Award winner. So Buster's off to a bad start. Plus, Adames is already breaking down. His back is in trouble. That's not a good sign for a shortstop that's going to be 30 years old. And Matt Chapman's already having surgery. So there's another $350 million down the toilet for good old Buster.
Hey, Oscar.
Not to mention
Oscar, yeah. Let me jump in here real quick. Give me one, because I know we all know the Devers situation. We all know Adames. We all know Chapman. It hasn't worked out. We all know about Tibbs. We all know about Harrison. We all know who they gave up. All that deal. Is there anybody right now other than Bryce Eldridge that's on this team, even if they're injured, that you're excited about as part of the future?
No, not at all. I would definitely trade Eldridge. I would also trade Jackson Flora, the Giants' number 1 pick, because he fell in the ratings. People didn't want him number 1, number 2, number 3. The Giants were like, "I'll take him." He fell for a reason, okay? His slider speed is nothing. I watched his slider speed on the highlights, and I was saying, gosh, how are those guys missing that ball? And I'm thinking, well, maybe they're just college hitters or something. But other people are saying the same thing. So what if Jackson Flora is a bust? And those 2 high school pitchers you saw, those guys are a dime a dozen at these showcases. A dime a dozen. There's hundreds of those high schoolers throwing 90+. There's Hunter Pence's cousin is throwing 100. He's 16 years old. I met him. And I'm thinking to myself, why are the Giants signing all these? I mean, these guys are in big trouble, because if this draft doesn't work out and all the hitters they passed up on, we're looking at and not to mention Tony Vitello for 3 more years and that Harrison Bader signing, and we're just going to double down and double down and double down. That's fine.
All right, thanks for the call. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Thanks for the call. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. I feel like I've heard that call before, even though I haven't hosted this show before. I don't think I've hosted this show after a Giants game one time this year, and I don't know that I did last year either. Maybe a couple. At some point when the Warriors had just ended after their series win in Houston, and then they ended up losing when Steph Curry got hurt to Minnesota. I mean, God, that was like almost a year and a half ago on the calendar at this point. But I feel like I've heard that call before at a different time. But nevertheless, the Giants are putting a lot of their eggs, or all of their eggs, in the future basket, and not in the future basket as it relates to like 2027, but in the future basket as it relates to like 2029 and 30, with maybe a little smattering of 2028. So the one thing I will say is, yeah, the now is brutal. The next doesn't appear as if it's going to be dramatically better, although you never know. The collective bargaining agreement, once that all shakes out, and different ways to maybe get off of a player here, a player there. You shuffle the deck a little bit, bring in some new players. Maybe you get some bounce-back seasons from some guys. You can always go from among the worst teams to being a team that can at least contend for a wild card spot from one year to the next. So I wouldn't rule it out, especially if you wind up having a shorter season next year. Maybe a 80-game season or 100-game season or even, hell, a 60-game season. Wouldn't that be fun? Everybody would pretend like they're in a playoff race if it's only a 60-game season. I think the Giants would sign up for that. Shorter, the better. The longer haul, the more opportunities for a team to be exposed and all of their flaws potentially to be exposed. But, yeah, they're putting their eggs in some big-time futures, not just next year or the year after that, but having a lot of talent that's going to be coming up. That's guys that are in low A and guys that are just making their way from low A to high A and not even necessarily in double A yet. And so we'll have to see. But yeah, at this point on this team, and I was saying this to Jacob during the break, I think the most disappointing aspect of this team right now. Like, look, it didn't work. They've never at any point been in the race. They were 0-3, and they were 3-8, and they were 6-12, and then they were 8 under in May, and then they were 15 under, shortly thereafter, going back to the early part of June and the middle of June, and then it got to they would for a long time there. It wouldn't get any worse than 15, but then it got to 20, and now 21, and now 23. So this season and the team that they put together with the manager that they hired, and we're talking about Buster Posey, has not worked. Hasn't worked out to this point. And I think everybody can acknowledge that. And you understand where they are at this stage with about a month and a half or a little bit more than a month to go in the season. But I think the frustrating and maybe most disappointing aspect of just the right now, because everybody knows they're not going to win a lot and the record's going to wind up pretty terrible. But you go up and down the lineup, and you just don't see a whole heck of a lot that's even necessarily going to be able to contribute in a meaningful way on next year's team, right? You're doing the thing which bad teams do where they evaluate and they give opportunities, but nobody's really taking advantage of the opportunity to this point. Like, Bryce Eldridge is awesome and projects to be somebody that's going to be a stud in the middle of the lineup that's going to hit a lot of home runs and be a big-time power threat. But, seriously, Barracoto on the team next year? We don't know. Drew Gilbert, I think he's had a decent year. He could probably be a platoon option with a right-handed power bat in the outfield for next year. I think he's on the team. To what level, is he somebody you want to necessarily be an every-game starter? Probably not, but I think he's a major league player, at least somebody that can be when a right-handed pitcher is on the mound. Basabe, no. Kavanaugh, not really. Christian Koss, forget about it. Jonah Cox, Buddy Kennedy. Susak. We're going to see Meyer at some point here, probably in Boston. But Casey Schmidt's hurt. And even some of the pitchers, Tidwell, would you pencil in Tidwell for the rotation next year right now? Nope, question mark. Wisenhunt, question mark. Any of the guys in the bullpen? No. Not if you expect to be some semblance of a winning team. So I think that's the disappointing part, is it doesn't feel like you're watching any of the future in addition to being just dreadful in terms of the overall record as you dip now to 23 games under the 500 mark at 51 and 74 and find yourself, right there on the doorstep of where the Colorado Rockies are. You're a game up on the Colorado Rockies right now and 23 under and basically, and you've been you've been a bottom 5 team the entire year as you currently still continue to be. All right, let's continue on the phone lines here with Safe at Third next. And 808 KNBR is the number, 415-808-5627 if you want to jump in and join the conversation here. It's JD, John Dickinson, sitting in on Sportsphone after the Giants lose to the Guardians 8-1. What's up, Safe at Third?
Hey, doing okay. JD, you took all of that and said a mouthful. I don't have to say anything after that. That was magnificent what you said because it represents everything that we're thinking out here. Tired of dragging that horse out and beating it to death. It's already dead. What I like to talk about is some maybe future. I like Harris tonight. Harris, I've been looking at this guy the last several games. This guy looks like he's tuned in. He looks like he likes what he's doing because he's throwing some good pitches to some big league hitters like he did tonight over at Cleveland. So I like to see some more of the up and comers if we have anything like that because that's the only thing that's going to happen right now for Vitello to have some control over because he doesn't have control over the known players at this point. I looked at Devers tonight. He looked like, okay, I'll take a crack at swinging, and that's it. Let's look at these young guys. Let's talk more about these young players because that's what is going to ultimately happen. We're doomed for 100 losses this year, so let's just suck up and eat it and kind of move with that and see what we got young wise. That's all I got. Thank you, JD.
No, I appreciate the call, man. Always great to hear from you, Safe at Third. And, yeah, I think you look at Harris, and he ends up striking out a couple in the fifth, Bailey among them, and then comes out and strikes out the first two in the sixth before giving up a base hit, and then ends up striking out Joe Adell, who nobody could get out. Carson Wisenhunt sure as heck couldn't get out. So he ends up going 2 innings. He strikes out 5 of the 6 outs that he got. Faced 7, gave up a knock, struck out 5, ended up retiring the other hitter on a ground ball. And so, yeah, you end up that is a real nice outing when you look at that with the 5 strikeouts among the 6 outs that he was able to get. All right, 808 KNBR, let's take a timeout. 415-808-5627. Got a couple of lines open if you want to keep the conversation rolling on the Giants. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. We'll switch gears coming up a little bit later on in the 7 o'clock hour. We'll talk some 49ers as the Niners had their joint practice today with the Chargers. Guy Haberman of the 49er broadcast team, he was out there for it, so I had an opportunity earlier to sit down with Guy. We'll run that for you here coming up at some point right around 7:50, 8 o'clock here on the Sports Leader. So Giants lose 8-1. We're here. We're talking about it. Sports Phone with JD continuing right here on the Sports Leader.
Giants fans, this is your hub to have your voice heard. Sportsphone KNBR. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
Now, hard ground ball, Fair. Pass first, down the right field line into the corner. The ball is dug out of the corner by Martinez, and it's a double for Turner Hill. And what a moment for him, playing here at home in front of all of the family and friends. They might be the only people still in the ballpark right now.
You could hear them cheering. They're all down the right field line. That ball was smoked.
All right, welcome back. Yeah, Turner Hill with a double in the ninth inning before Drew Gilbert was called out on strikes to end this one. Small bright spot there. And I'm intrigued to see more from Turner Hill. He's somebody that we haven't seen a lot of yet, who looks like maybe he has the potential to be a decent major league hitter. So by all means, it's honestly more for me about the guys that we haven't seen yet than the guys that we've seen maybe a little bit too much of to this point. And look, Jonah Cox had a couple of hits in the game, although Cox has got to quit getting caught on the base paths. Been too many base running blunders for Jonah Cox. He bounces one through for a base hit leading off the game and then ends up getting caught stealing, which, you know, Bryce Eldridge is at the plate. There's two out. Bryce Eldridge ends up leading off the second, hits a bomb. Maybe that's a two-run homer if Jonah Cox doesn't get himself thrown out trying to steal on the bases. Giants lose, by the way, 8-1 to the Cleveland Guardians. John Dickinson back here, Sportsphone KNBR on a Tuesday night. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. New low for the Giants. They're 23 under 500 at 51 and 74. So do the math on that. What, 125 games? So 37 to go at this point between now and the final weekend of September. And Carson Whisenhunt just didn't have it. Immediately tonight comes out, walks Stephen Kwan, then a base hit, and Joe Adell hits the longest home run that any Guardian has hit this season. And this game was over before 4 o'clock. 2 out, nobody on in the second. Guardians go single-double, and then Adell drives in a couple of more on a rocket at 109 miles an hour, and it's a 5-1 lead despite the fact that Bryce Eldridge went deep in between the 3-spot and the 2-spot that the Guardians put up in the first couple of innings of this one, and then Adell back into the act again, drives in another run in the fourth, and the Guardians put this thing on cruise control. 2 more errors for the Giants in this game, and they just continue to play sloppy, ugly, uninspired baseball. And, you know, a couple of days after, Tony Vitello calls him out and has a team meeting about the fact that they got to clean it up a little bit after all the walks and the sloppy play and the blunders with a big home crowd against Colorado and a 13-7 loss on Sunday. Said it was junior college level, and then they go out tonight, and Whisenhunt gets rocked. They got errors all over the place in terms of the field and base running blunders, in addition to not putting up much of a fight against Foster Griffin. Other than really the first couple innings of the game, he really wasn't fooling anybody. The Giants did have some opportunities there, but unable to plate some runs, some atom balls that ended up being caught. And like I said, the Guardians able to add on early and continue to pile on en route to the 8-1 victory over the Giants. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. No Patrick Bailey revenge game tonight, by the way, although he was the batter that was at the plate that should have bounced into a double play had Bryce Eldridge not been able to catch a throw on a double play that didn't even hit the ground. and a play that absolutely has to be made, and that led to a run for the Guardians, and you can't assume the double play, so Bailey ended up getting an RBI in that situation, but Bailey otherwise 0 for 4 in the ball game. So no Patrick Bailey revenge game. I guess he got the win, so he'll take that and just kind of move forward. But, yeah, more trouble for Carson Wisenhunt in the fourth after the first two reached base in front of Jose Ramirez. He got Ramirez, and then Adele with another single to drive in a run. And it just – I also thought it was strange. I guess tonight was about development and not about trying to win, because as Wisenhunt is just getting wrecked in this game by the Guardians and then hit by a comebacker off his back pocket for an out that led to the seventh run, that was the point at which Tony Vitello decided to get the bullpen up for the first time. As they went to check on him in that moment, in the fourth inning, with 7 runs already on the board, in what would prove to be Wisenhunt's last inning anyway. But, like, you want to save a guy from himself? Like, guy's getting crushed. He clearly didn't have it. Getting banged around Progressive Field. And they don't even bother to get the pen up until he actually got whacked on the comebacker that ended up bouncing off of him. And then it's like, oh, time to get the pen up. Time to get the – that's been too often. So, and I know there was the game going back where there was the question about Tidwell, and do you leave him in? Do you let him go? And it's funny in that moment, and it feels like the Giants have gotten this wrong on a couple of different fronts, right? When it's the time to go developmental mode and let a guy maybe work his way through some stuff in a game where he's pitching relatively well and you have an opportunity to win, that's the moment in which you choose to take somebody out and then say it's because you're trying to win the game when you're 20 games under 500. And then you look at a night like tonight where you got a guy just getting wrecked and then he's got to go out there and continue to just wear it without anybody in the pen, despite the fact that you've got an off day. And look, I know it's a long trip and you're going to Fenway after the game's in Cleveland, and there's some weather concerns tomorrow, and maybe you end up with a game that gets washed out over the course of the next 2 days. But it's been all too peculiar, the nights that have been chosen as the development nights versus the nights have been chosen that you want to attempt to potentially look to win yourself a game. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. We are going to get into some 49ers as well coming up. Let's get Bob in Saratoga, though, here on the phone lines as he wants to chime in on everything going wrong for the Giants, which is, it feels like just about everything, not named Bryce Eldridge at this point. What's going on, Bob? You're on the Sports Leader.
Yeah, you guys are my only station I listen to day and night, and so I've heard a lot, and I'm really tired of hearing people criticizing Buster Posey. He inherited 2 major problems when he took this job. One, the owner is not going to compete with the Dodgers or the Yankees or anybody else. He's not going to give him the kind of money he needs to get those kind of players. So that's a real handicap. The other handicap is that Fargam, for 4 years, destroyed the farm system, mismanaged the whole club, and put it into the situation that he inherited. Nobody talks about that. All they do is keep blaming Buster Posey. Like, the only guy that really knows is our former pitcher of the Giants, who has a great program, and he talks about it because he's played the game with the Giants. He was a teammate of Buster Posey, and he said it's not Buster Posey, it's not the players. I mean, it's not the manager, it's the players. We don't have competitive players. We can't compete with any team we play. That's why we got a bad record. So I just want to clear the air on that because it's going to be a while. It's going to take him 2 or 3 years. He's got Randy Wynn rebuilding the whole farm system, but that takes a long while. And right now we're trying out a lot of these prospects that we traded a race for. We never should have traded him. He was the best player on the team. There's nobody on the team now that can really hit. or score runs. So we've weakened the team. So now we got to use the time between now and the end of the year to see if we brought in any prospects that might be real superstars in the future. That's what we're going through.
Bob, appreciate the call. A lot to chew on. I agree with some of it. I disagree with some of it as well. I do think, yes, look, Buster Posey built this team. You're not wrong about Farhan and the farm system and it being depleted and Buster Posey inheriting that. You're not wrong about some of the concerns over ownership spending, although Buster Posey was able to spend at a pretty significant level on 3 pretty expensive players that he chose to bring in the trade for Devers and obviously Adames and Chapman, and he was more than willing to give Chapman extra years that, in fairness, maybe Farhan was a little bit more uncomfortable in doing, but he wanted to get that deal over the top, so he gives him the no-trade clause. He convinces ownership and everybody else in the front office to extend that deal. The team that Buster Posey built for 2026 failed. The manager that Buster Posey hired for 2026 has failed for 2026. Now he's coming back in 27. We'll see how that team is. If he can survive that to get to 28 and even 29 when some of these other young players that you speak of who are promising start to come up, then you're right. The evaluation of Buster Posey will shift. But for now, it's all part of the story. The team that he built for this year is part of the story. The guys that are on the come here over the next 3 or 4 years, they will be part of the story when they start to come up. But you don't get a pass on the now, because the conversation coming into this year was not about this team being a rebuilding squad. It was not about, hey, we're 3 years away. It was not about you want to see a bunch of young players. It was, I think, a front office that was a little ticked off that thought that the team that they had last year was actually better than they performed, and they thought they were going to hire a manager that was going to help them win more games based on energy and personality and all of that. So they were trying to thread the needle now and in the future, and then they didn't build a bullpen. Who didn't build the bullpen? I mean, Buster Posey's addressed this. Like, he thought they had enough. They had guys they wanted to look at. Like, he completely misvalued the bullpen. Like, it's just a fact. Now, again, 2026 isn't going to ultimately be the end-all, be-all in determining Buster Posey's tenure, but there's no other way, and I think Buster Posey wouldn't dispute this, than to look at this season for the Giants and call it a complete and utter failure on every single level. That's just keeping it a buck. And Bob, I love you. If you want to, if maybe that changes with the guys that they've drafted and the job that they're doing in the minor leagues to develop them. And you know what? When that happens, then the evaluation of Buster Posey will change. But it's all part of the equation. It's all part of the equation, and there has to be some level of accountability in terms of acknowledging it. Doesn't mean he's got to get fired right now. Doesn't mean Vitello's got to get fired right now. But even now, as you look up and down this roster, as I've noted a couple of times already, it's pretty bleak in terms of guys that are on this team now that are going to be part of the future. There aren't a lot of names, because the truth is, the guys that really have the best chance to be part of a sustained, few years consecutively of winning the next time the Giants are able to do that are probably guys that are playing in the low minor leagues. It's just reality. All right, let's take a timeout. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. John Dickinson right here. Giants lose to the Guardians. Still time for some more phone calls if you want to sneak in. We'll probably do one more segment of Giants before we switch gears and talk a little bit about the joint practice and the 49ers. It's JD here on Sportsphone on the Sports Leader.
Giants fans, this is your hub to have your voice heard. Sportsphone KNBR. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
Straight back to you.
All right, Giants lose 8-1. John Dickinson back with you here on a Tuesday. Sportsphone KNBR. I'll be here till 9 o'clock, 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Guy Haberman joining the show coming up here in the 8 o'clock hour, early part of the 8 o'clock hour. Hope to chat with Krug as well before he gets going with a little Niners Nightly After Dark is what I'm going to call it when he comes up at 9 o'clock. Krug, busy day. He was down at the joint practice in Southern California. I think flew down this morning and was there for the joint practice and flew back. And I'm sure he's been streaming all day, and he's going to be on at 9 o'clock. So we look forward to having Krug on as always. Didn't get him at 6 because the Giants were obviously playing, but my goodness, another tough night for the Giants. All right, back to the phones here. Let's keep it rolling. Less of me, more of the people. And Roy in San Leandro is next here on the Sports Leader. Hey, Roy.
Hey, John. Thanks a lot for taking my call, man. How you been?
I've been great. It's great to hear your voice. Always great to get a chance to talk to you, man.
That some of what that guy said that you talked to, John, he made a lot of sense. I didn't agree with all of it because Buster Posey, I agree with him. To some degree, you can blame him, but not 100%. But I don't want to get into that right now. What I'd like to say is that it's going to take a universal, situation to turn the Giants around. It's going to have to take all the way from the top. And what I mean by all the way from the top, it's going to start with Larry Baer going around visiting, in the summer months, the Giant affiliates to make sure these guys are being taught what's right. And, it's going to also take Ron Washington, not only Buster Posey, Ron Washington, and the Giant manager who, when they were winning all of those games, the pennants and all that, it's going to take him, the back catcher. It's going to take Dusty Baker, Bruce Bochy. It's going to take all of them to teach those young players how to pitch, what to look for, keep runners on first, and back catch. In the back catch, it's going to take a universal, because, see, you could have some talent, but if they're not being taught right, what good is it going to do? And you see that translated because the Giant farm system really was ranked 24th. Something like from what I heard, but now they rank something like 8th or 7th. And so everybody's going to have to chip in. Even the fans are going to have to chip in. If they happen to see talent around here in the Bay Area, call the Giants up and tell them, But what I'm saying, though, is that, you're going to have to teach these guys how to hit, how to do things, just the whole complete package of baseball itself, John. You know that as well as I do, man. Come on now.
I think you're spot on, Roy. It just and look, I think right now it's more at the lower levels where these players are going to be coming up in a couple of years. Look, it's all encompassing. There's no doubt, and ultimately that level of development, Roy, is going to determine Buster Posey's fate in terms of how he's evaluated. Because whether you think he deserves a lot of the blame right now for where things are at or a lesser portion of the blame. And I'll even say the same for Tony Vitello. They're both coming back. It's not as if Buster Posey's losing his job. Like, there's a plan in place. Now, the short-term part of the plan doesn't look great, but there still is time for the longer-term part of the plan to come to fruition. And you look back and maybe we'll say, well, maybe they should have tried to do that a little bit sooner. And if they had, they would have been in a better spot more quickly. But it really is more about the development. And I think for the next year and maybe even 2, it's going to be about the guys that we don't see at the big league level. Sure, you might find a player here, a player there, but it's going to be about the guys that are coming up through the minor league system. Great phone call, Roy. Always great to hear from you, my friend. Thanks for the call. All right, Roy checking in San Leandro. From Roy, let's go to Michael in Napa next here on the Sports Leader. Hey, Michael.
What's up, JD? How are you?
I'm hanging in there, man. Tough watch right now. The Giants are a tough watch right now.
Hang in there. Hang in there because, that's what I was going to say. I liked what Bob said, and this last guy who called. Buster took a 28th ranked farm system when he joined, and now it's ranked number 4. So this blame game thing is kind of funny. It's like, that's not a completely lost season, in my opinion. If you're a really fan of the Giants, that's a big, big win. And as far as
it's a big win, but here's the thing, Michael. I'm going to jump in real quick. Here's the thing. You don't know what that translates to until these guys actually get to the major leagues. And I hear you. It's awesome that they've gone from the mid-20s or bottom 5 to the top, 5 to 8 or 10 or wherever you want to put them. But ultimately, there's no actual value in that until these guys are either used in trade to acquire talented players that help you come up and win, or they actually come up through the system and they're on the major league team and help you win.
Right, but there is value in it because you don't want to go through another 4 to 8 years of still having a 28th ranked farm system.
No doubt.
Right?
It gives you hope. It does give you something more significant to hope for than I think Giants fans have been able to hope for in the big picture in a long, long time. I don't think there's any denying that.
And then the Devers trade. Devers is our best hitter. He's still one of the better hitters in the major leagues. There's not a lot of guys around him. Jung-Hoo can hit, and I think Chapman and Adames have been playing hurt all year. And it's not like these guys. I think a majority of people love the signings when they're made. And so now, as like hindsight's 2020, you're like, oh, look at these dumb moves Buster made. And actually, they really weren't that bad. Like Chapman's a great player. Adames can hit 30 bombs. I mean, you got these guys that are not living up to the numbers on the back of their card, and now it's like the blame game. Whose fault is it? It's the player's fault.
All right, Michael, thanks for the call. I'll give you the run there. Look, it doesn't matter what I or you or anybody else thought at the time, and I've admitted plenty that I didn't hate really any of the moves. I liked the Devers move at the time. Chapman was more of a, I guess you got to do it. Adames, sure, you haven't been able to get those guys to come and sign with you, but the president of baseball operations is evaluated by the actual results. So I think the one thing we know is the fact that, and I guess one question first, like, can Devers be your best hitter? Like, and that's like you're paying him like he's your best hitter, and he has been. But can he be the best hitter on a winning team? Or do you need to have a couple of guys that are better than him to where he kind of drops down and you need a little bit less from him over the long haul? I think that's a question. If Adames and Chapman are going to be on a really good Giants team with Devers, it might be because they end up with 3 or 4 players that are better than most of those guys, if not all of them. And those guys either are signed or they come out of nowhere or maybe come through the minor league system at a quicker rate than anybody would anticipate. And I think that would, to basically, we got a couple outfielders and, now all of a sudden Chapman doesn't have to be hitting in the middle of your lineup, and now all of a sudden Adames doesn't have to be somebody that you're counting on because you have other players that have the ability to step up and step in there. All right, let's take another timeout. Daniel and Jeff, I see you guys on the line. We'll come back. We'll get to you. We'll do one more segment of Giants before Guy Haberman joins us. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Giants lose 8-1. We're here. We're talking about it. A lot of positivity, surprisingly, tonight, which is a little surprising considering the current state. People thinking more, I think, about 2028 and 2029 than 2026 and 2027. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do when you're 23 games under 500? All right, we'll continue here on the Sports Leader.
Giants fans, this is your hub to have your voice heard. Sportsphone KNBR. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
Mike, straight to you.
All right, welcome back. Giants lose 8-1 to the Guardians. Rough night for Carson Whisenhunt as he gives up 3 in the first, 2 more in the second, couple more in the fourth, and he was out of this game. 6 earned, 7 total, 8-1. Guardians, the final. Bryce Eldridge did go deep in the second inning. One of the lone bright spots in this one for the Giants, as they get, for the most part, after some early action, at least in terms of some hard-hit balls against Foster Griffin. Trent Harris, a couple of scoreless innings of relief. He continues to intrigue a little bit. 2 innings of relief, 5 strikeouts of the 6 outs that he recorded in his 2 innings of work. And we're going to see the tugboat. You ready to see the tugboat, Jacob Violante?
Dude, I am, and that's the real revenge game,
tugboat
right?
Wilkinson.
Let's go, dude. That's the Pat Bailey tugboat vengeance. Let's go.
Yeah. Tugboat versus Pat Bailey tomorrow, right here on the Sports Leader. Get ready for it. But yeah, I mean, Wilkinson was pitching really well in Double-A at the point of the trade, and then continued to pitch really well in Double-A. The Triple-A numbers after the Giants bumped him up, not quite as great, but the Giants with the open spot in the rotation, and it sounds like it's going to be Tugboat Wilkinson. So I'm intrigued, and I think that's sort of the theme of the show tonight. It feels like it's the people that still are optimistic, Jacob. Their optimism is more based on the guys that they haven't seen to this point than it is about the guys that they have seen, maybe minus a Bryce Eldridge is sort of an obvious one.
Dude, there's still that mystery of the unforeseen, the shadows in the mist that we can hope for, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it's what you have not seen. At least you can daydream that it might be something great that carries you deep into the future. And I think the Giants are going to be having a lot of that hope for 28 and 29 and 29 and 30, but how much of it are they going to be able to find here for the remainder of 26 and 27 and maybe the first part of 2028 as these guys start to come up. All right, let's get Daniel in San Francisco in. 808 KNBR, the number, 415-808-5627. Hey, Daniel, you are on The Sports Leader.
What's going on, man? I'm sitting here and listening to you speak this reality. It's true, man. You're tuned in to how long it's going to take to straighten this out. Hey, Buster Posey did not inherit the Dodgers, okay? He inherited a team that needed better players. He did the absolute best he could, and people are putting them down for it. But if it wasn't Buster Posey, it will be somebody else. And you have to understand your timeline. If people listen to your timeline, they'll understand. You know your baseball.
Well, thanks for the call. I appreciate that. That means a lot, Daniel. And it is going to take some time. Now, that being said, and the one thing I will push back on a little bit, and thank you again, is the fact that you are held accountable for the job that you do. And so we can debate the level at which Buster Posey inherited this or that, but to this point, it has not been what anybody would have anticipated it be on the moves that he has made. And look, as I've said repeatedly, it doesn't mean he's gone, doesn't mean the story's completely written. We may look back in 2030 and laugh about 25 and 26 and maybe 20, admitting the conclusion that the Giants are just going to stink in 2027 as we sit here on August the 18th of 2026. And who knows what 2027 will be in terms of everything that's going on with the labor situation and how many games there's going to be and all of that. But to this point, it is a unique deal because to this point there is extreme optimism, and rightfully so, as far as what the future 3-4 years out has the potential to look like and beyond. But it's just a matter of how do the Giants survive potentially taking a few more lumps than everybody was hoping, or maybe they were sold that they were going to have to take this year. Because even if you think the future is bright, I don't think anybody anticipated this team this season being this bad. And there has to be some level of accountability just in acknowledging it. That's all I'm saying. I was having the debate yesterday with Derek Papa about how, to me, it feels like Tony Vitello is like completely skating on this season. And I don't think that's fair and accurate. Like, you can say, hey, it's his first year and they set him up to fail in a lot of different ways, and you're going to give him another chance because of that in 2027. And now maybe the goalposts have moved in terms of more of an acknowledgement that 2027 is going to be closer to developmental than really trying to win. And if you set that bar that low, maybe if they do wind up competing or contending for a playoff spot or just being significantly more watchable on a night-in, night-out basis next year, you're going to feel better about all of it at that point in time. In essence, I was joking off the air with a couple of the guys in digital about how at this point every loss this year is just essentially a setup for looking like you're having a greater level of improvement next year, right? Like you end up 26, 28, 30 under, win 66 games and lose 96. It sets you up to, even if you aren't good next year, be improved and have the appearance of improvement, which I think it would probably be enough to keep Tony Vitello around for 2028. And then maybe you get a chance to see what he could do with more of the young talent as time goes on. In essence, the worse it gets now, the better it sets up for the appearance of improvement next year. And I think the Giants would relish potentially in that appearance of improvement for next year. All right, let's take another timeout. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. The number to jump in and join the conversation. Guy Haberman is going to join me coming up next here, as it'll be a guy was down at the joint practice down in El Segundo at the Bolt. At the Bolt, the Chargers practice facility. Niners and Chargers going at it Thursday, preseason game number 2. We'll get his thoughts on just the state of the Niners right now and the state of the Niners coming off of the joint practice and leading up to that game that's going to be played, which we'll have for you here on the Sports Leader coming up on Thursday. So you're listening to KNBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM San Francisco, the Sports Leader, a Cumulus Media station. Guy Haberman next, right here on the Sports Leader.
This is where we feed the faithful. Sportsphone, KNBR. Streaming live at twitch.tv/the Sports Leader.
Welcome back. John Dickinson here, Sportsphone KNBR on the Sports Leader here on this Tuesday night. And it is a pleasure now to be joined as we head down to Southern California from the 49ers broadcast team. It is Guy Haberman joining me here. Guy, thanks a lot for taking some time out. The joint practice with the Chargers going on earlier today. How are you, my friend?
JD, great to see you. Yep, joint practice today in El Segundo, the Bolt. Our first, my first look at least at the Chargers practice facility. It's spacious. It was cool. Yeah, it's good. I'm good. I think the question was, how are you doing? So good.
Well, and before we get into the joint practice and really just the state of this team overall here as we head toward the back portion of the preseason, I mean, we go back to the days where Jim Harbaugh was the coach of the 49ers.
Yeah.
What did you get a chance to go to his press conference at all? What was it just like being in Jim's world a little bit for the first time in probably a long time?
Yeah, his energy is, I spent a couple years in the Big Ten, but he was kind of in the afterglow of what he did at Michigan, working in on the broadcast side there. And he is, like when you see him from across the field, he just emanates, and obviously he, his track record is a complicated one, a lot of winning, a lot of changing, but like the Jim thing, I heard a few Jim impressions from other people doing Jim, which is, one of my favorite sports impressions to hear is somebody doing Jim, especially because it's so, if there's a personal touch to it. So, I saw him come out and hug some people, talk to some people that he knew. He had some quotes I'm sure you saw about how much he wanted to meet Brock Purdy because he seems like a cool guy.
He's always got that one quote. I want to shake his hand. Hopefully Kyle will introduce me to him. I love how good he is, his timing, his decision-making, his accuracy, how cool he is. Just how cool he is. I mean, and Jim.
For everybody listening, probably most people experience Jim as a Niner, and you can picture his face when he says that quote, right? Like that's the part of it that cracks me up. So yeah, you got, and then you got Mike McDaniel over there too, which is a very interesting dynamic and a welcome one for Justin Herbert, who is on his 5th coordinator in 7 years. And if you go back even further, it's his, and you count head coaches in college, it's his 8th in 11 years because he had 3 different head coaches in college in a 4-year span. So hopefully Mike McDaniel is the guy that can bring some consistency to Justin.
It does seem like it's an odd match, Jim and Mike McDaniel. Not necessarily Justin Herbert and Mike McDaniel, but Jim and Mike McDaniel seem like an odd match. So we'll see ultimately how it all will shake out. I know though Mike McDaniel, big run game guy, and Jim Harbaugh wants to be able to run the football to set everything up and make life easier for Herbert. So I guess they're aligned in that way.
Yeah, and McDaniel had a fullback like Alec Ingold. He brought him with him from Miami. So, Jim loves a fullback. But it is fully the Mike McDaniel offense. Harbaugh said it when he hired him. Here's the head coach of the offense. And from talking to people who cover the Chargers, they say, yeah, it is fully the Mike McDaniel offense.
All right, so let's get into the joint practice a little bit from earlier. And I know anytime there's a joint practice, it's typically the 2 fields. So I'll just kind of lay that out for everybody. Did you spend more time on the 49ers offense, let's say against the Chargers defense, or the 49ers defense against the Chargers offense? Often you have to pick, although you can maneuver between the two at different points.
Yeah. I did try to get between the fields so I could see both. And on the side of the field where the Chargers offense was, the Chargers have this thing where they have a big screen, and immediately after the play, the all 22 of the play replays on a loop until the next play.
Wow.
So you can watch a play and then look up and see the play again, which is it's not it's not a thing for the media or fans. It's for the coaches, apparently.
How cool is that?
Yeah,
that seems pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. It's like a mobile. It's not a, it's not like a video. I mean, it is a video board, but it looks like the kind that they set up, and it's it's up in the air and it's pretty good size. Like, it's big enough. You wouldn't put it in a stadium or even a basketball arena, but it's big enough if you're standing on the field to just look up and, okay, let me get an all 22 kind of behind the quarterback view. It's all 22, but it's the end zone view basically from behind the Chargers offense of the play. And that's really cool. So I did enjoy that and being able to look up and what happened. I mean, in a game, you needed to see it 2 or 3 times sometimes before you really know what happened. So definitely in practice where there's a lot of people standing in your way. But I went back and forth between the two, and then, at times tried to watch both and had binoculars. So sometimes I would look a little further and see what was going on over there. The Chargers offense looked good. The Chargers look good. The Chargers look like they're a good football team. No surprise. I mean, they've been to the playoffs back-to-back years under Jim, and they figured to be better this year.
I think one of the things that stood out in just kind of reading some of the accounts through the afternoon about the joint practice is, hey, this was a step up for the 49ers in terms of just the overall talent that the Chargers have on their roster compared to, say, the Tennessee Titans, who a week ago today, the 49ers were going at it at Levi Stadium with. Just what stood out to you? Let's start with the 49ers offense and just a couple of quick notes here. I saw Kalon Black was back at practice. I know a big note was Mike Evans is dealing with some kind of tightness. He kind of left and was icing something on his leg that at this point doesn't deem to be too serious or anything like that. Dejon Stribling, Kyle Shanahan quick to point out, had some good plays, but also had some rough ones. Feels like Kyle maybe doesn't want Dejon Stribling getting too gassed up in terms of maybe the positive plays versus still having a lot of work to do, even as an impressive rookie. But what stood out to you in terms of, let's just say, 49ers offense versus the Chargers defense first?
Well, the one that really caught my attention is the first thing you said, which was Kalon Black's return. Christian McCaffrey, Kyle said afterwards, if it was a game, Christian could go. But, you still need another running back. You need another running back now. Hopefully you can have another one to spell Christian, and it's not because Christian's hurt, but you need somebody else in the big picture too. And, Jordan James looked good before he got hurt. He looked good last year before he got hurt. Kalon Black looked really good before he got hurt. So it was great to see Kalon Black back. The 49ers really liked him. He and Stribling were two guys that when they drafted him caught a lot of people's attention because of, the value or the perceived value. And so him being a good player for them is more important just for them, not so much about draft value anymore. He's on the team. But he looked, before he got hurt, really explosive and decisive. And I thought he looked that way again today. Stribling made a couple of plays. You're right. You quoted Kyle properly, and the spirit of it goes back, I think, to a little bit of what they said after the preseason game as well, because he had really good preseason performance. Clay Kubiak kind of said the same thing over the weekend. But the reality is, like, he'll be a better player in 2027, but he's going to be on the field in 2026, right? Like, he'll know the offense better. He'll block it better. He'll blah, blah, blah. But he's one of their best receivers right now. There's not even a question about it. So some guys, it's like, well, he's got to do better to get on the field. I don't think that's what it is with Dejon Stribling. He just keeps making plays when he has the opportunity. I thought it was really cool to have an opportunity today to make a catch in traffic where, it's supposed to be thud. You're not getting tackled to the ground, but where he took a hit, like a real hit. A collision occurred as he caught the ball, and he held on. Caught a touchdown. Was not an easy catch. He made a few he's made some difficult catches. I thought he stood out for that reason today. He's going to stand out always. You're watching him, but he made traffic catches, point of contact at the point of the catches. Were like, some other guys like Jordan Watkins took a huge hit on a ball that Brock tried to throw it back to him over the middle of the field in the end zone. It would have been a really tough catch. Would have loved to see him make it, right? He got kind of blown up and didn't make the play. So That's another one for sure. I mean, the rookies for sure. And well, I'll stop there because you asked about Niners offense. But I think the other thing is, I think Brock just continues to look really on point. You think like, well, how can Brock get better? If you ask somebody who is like a technician, they say, well, your footwork can improve. Brock's footwork is tight. Brock's footwork is tight this year. So he looks like he's worked hard. I thought Mac had struggled against the Niners defense. And, it was suggested to me that Mac would get better as time goes on because it's basically give credit to the defense. It's a different defense than he faced in practice last year when he looked better. Well, he looked good today. I thought Mac Jones loves to push the ball down the field. He hit Jordan Watkins in double coverage on a deep ball, kind of what would have been down the right hash mark. And Jordan tried to one arm and couldn't bring it in. But I think in a game, you probably get a pass interference on it. But he threw a really nice ball to Trenton Irwin, who is battling on the back end of the receiver side of things. So, those are some of the headlines. They still don't have real, no one's taken their left guard battle. And that's a big deal for them. That's a big deal. So I don't know how they'll figure that one out.
How close or far do you think, we're talking with Guy Haberman from the 49ers broadcast team he was down at the joint practice earlier today down in El Segundo, the 49ers and the Chargers. Of course, Guy will be on the call on the television side for the broadcast coming up on Thursday as the 49ers will take on the Chargers preseason game number 2. The left guard situation, I want to ask you about Brock Purdy as well, but how close or far away do you think the 49ers are to maybe saying, hey, we need to look outside from the guys that currently are going through this competition right now for the spot?
Yeah, I think probably close as in we just passed the exit. We're close, but we got to turn around and go back. I would imagine they've been looking. That would be my expectation. I don't see how you can't. It's August 18th, and you don't love it. No one's grabbed it. You've brought more people to the competition.
Yeah, that's
Trevor
never
Willis
a good sign,
the competition.
right? That's never a good sign. And then Kyle, and I'm paraphrasing, nobody's made it easy on them yet to make a decision.
Yeah,
and now you're
exactly
adding people to the competition.
Yeah, and the guy you added probably is going to be third in that battle, right? You have Robert Jones, you have Connor Colby, and then you have Carver Willis, who's the added guy who was banged up, but he's a rookie. And I don't know, maybe Colby's been better at right guard, which only helps you if Dominic Pooney doesn't come back from this concussion anytime soon, but doesn't really help you if you're looking for left guard. So yeah, I to answer your question, I got to think as rosters get cut down, they at the top of the list for them will be, are there any left guards out there? Are the guards we like? And you can trade. Remember, they traded last year for Sky Moore. They traded a 6th and got back, I think, Sky Moore in a 7th as a returner. That's another position. It's do we right now? You can say Jacob Cowing's been the best returner, but is Jacob Cowing going to be on the field next Tuesday? Right? He's been banged up. So are you really, if you don't love him, even if you loved him, but he's injury prone, you would say it's a little risky to go in without another guy you kind of like that you can trust. He doesn't need that dynamic. Sky was, but just trust. So you asked about left guard. I say the same thing about punt returner. It's those could be spots where they're looking.
Well, it's also interesting because, one of the other things is, do they have enough at wide receiver right now? And it seems like they do if Stribling is just going to play. And I think, I would agree with you. I think they're going to need him to play. And you've still got Mike Evans and now Debo's back and all of that. But how does maybe having to find a returner factor into the way that they look at the overall guys who are going to make the team at the wide receiver spot?
Well, I think if you're adding a returner, you're doing it because you need a returner more so than you're adding a receiver that you like, right? I think
but that probably takes up a spot though, no?
Well,
I mean, it doesn't have to be, but
yeah, 1,000% it does. But that's the position you're in right now. It's like Jacob Cowing takes up a spot. Is he going to get any snaps on offense? Maybe. I actually think when he's been healthy, he's had a good camp. But all of these guys take up a spot. Like Jordan Watkins. Is he going to get on the field as a receiver if Stribling and Evans and Debo and and has not been as good returning punts. You might lean him as a receiver over Cowing, but he hasn't been as good returning punts. So let's say that's the decision they have to make. Who's the better receiver versus who's the better punt returner? And, I think you have to go with who's the better punt returner because you just cannot be muffing punts.
No.
Especially if that guy is the last or second to last receiver on your active roster, meaning he's not playing that much.
Yeah. So your sixth wide receiver, if he's a punt return guy, hey, that's the guy, and that needs to be the guy. So you better have faith at a minimum in the other five. Maybe the sixth guy can play if he needs to, but you need to have faith in that you've got enough in the other five, or you keep seven, although I don't think they're necessarily keeping seven, and that's probably too deep to go for the purposes of this conversation on August the 18th. Guy, you struck me as we were talking about Brock Purdy a little bit, and Brock himself said post-practice he didn't think it was the offense's best day going up against the Chargers defense. But I think overall, Brock has had a really understated but noticeable camp in terms of just how well he's played. It leads me to ask you, what does a Brock Purdy leap look like? Because I haven't really accounted for that, but it kind of feels like maybe we're heading down a path where this could be a Brock Purdy leap type of a season.
Well, I think your conclusion is right. What does a leap look like? For Brock, it probably, well, I shouldn't say probably, maybe it's a non-obvious thing because that's kind of a lot of what he does. You have to watch it over time for it to become obvious. But I mean, I think the obvious thing would be beat the Seahawks. I know they beat them last year, but since they beat them, they played 2 games where they got absolutely dominated. So, beat the Seahawks and maybe not 13-10, right? So that would be to me, a moment. That would definitely be a moment. You guys punched, we found a way to punch back, and the quarterback is a weapon that helps us do that. So that, to me, that's on the list. I think, less interceptions. Now, I do think some of them are a function of first down play action shots over the middle of the field, and it's just dangerous to throw. You get interceptions over the middle of the field. So I do think some of those interceptions are just a product of the offense and the way it gets called. He should stop throwing interceptions on first down. Well, yeah, I agree, but they're taking shots over the middle of the field on first down. They're layering throws on, but that would be another one. Can you find a way to kind of thread that needle of still being as explosive and dynamic and precise and cut down on the picks, or just throw more touchdowns? But I think it's the in those moments, and Seattle would be a moment for sure. Can you go win it on the field, right? Because that team's really talented and they're smart. So can you go beat them? And again, I know they did it week 1 last year, but it by the end of the year it felt different, and it's kind of time to strike back.
Well, and it is a different Seattle team, and Brock's been able to beat Seattle, but it's different versions of Seattle at different points throughout the course of his career. And it's not, I guess, what Seattle became as Seattle became champions over the back half of the year, and obviously week 18 and the divisional round and the thumping that they put on the 49ers. A couple of more minutes here with Guy Haberman, the 49ers broadcast team here on the Sports Leader. Let's switch it up a little bit and go to the 49ers on the defensive side against the Chargers offense. I know you mentioned the Chargers just overall looked pretty good. I've speculated, could the Niners be becoming more of a back 7 team as opposed to a front 7 team, just given their personnel? Accounts I've read, and again, you were there, I wasn't, But accounts I've read, it wasn't the best day maybe for the 49ers secondary going up against Justin Herbert and the Chargers wide receiving core. Is that how you saw it? And, just what was the difference maybe in level of competition between a more dominant 49er performance against the Titans a week ago and maybe getting exposed a little bit by some better talent and scheme today?
I mean, Justin Herbert's such a better quarterback. Like, it's not even, it feels like such an obvious, unfair thing to say, but Justin Herbert is such a better quarterback than Cam Ward. So I think you start with that. Herbert is clearly a top 10. We could debate it. Some would say 5. I think Sando's list had him 6. Cam Ward's the kind of guy that helps out the defense, and Justin Herbert's the kind of guy that doesn't. So, I think if somebody, you go, well, what does this defense need most? Well, they need Nick Bosa most. Now, I don't know that how much that helped him today, but it would have helped him today. Like, Herbert had a lot of time to throw, and the crowd was cheering a lot on that side of the field. That there were times where I wasn't over there, I was watching the Niners offense, but just there's a roar, you look up and somebody's running into the end zone. I think if you had the choice to be a front 7 team or a back 7 team, you pick the front 7. Like we saw, your secondary just cannot overcome a lack of a pass rush. I don't think it's possible. Now, a secondary that's not great can look good with a pass rush. And so that's just not a trade you want to make. And Michael Williams is still a little ways away. Obviously, Bosa's a big deal and is getting closer, according to Kyle. So that's great. But yeah, no, the Chargers offense won that side of the field for sure.
And I think you look at it and, the 49ers have, everybody's going to be concerned about the defensive line and the defensive line without Bosa. And that's even with maybe some improvements on the interior with Oso Digizua. And they've got some young, interesting players, I think, that are probably more in the defensive tackle space than the true pass rusher space at this point. So I don't know. It seems to me, and discussing it on shows as Von Miller ended up going to Dallas, and I didn't really think the Niners were necessarily going to be looking to add in the Von Miller category. But do you think maybe part of the reason the Niners are not looking to add now is that they want to see what they have and then see if this team over the first, let's say, 6 to 8 games of the season proves that they are one extra pass rusher away from maybe title contention, or it could put them over the top, and then they'd look to go big. Whereas now it's like, you know what? Not on August 18th, but maybe on November 9th.
Yeah, you talking about Max Crosby?
Among others, but yeah, I know the 49ers of the Raiders play on November the 8th at Levi's, which is 2 days before the trade deadline. I think if he hasn't gone elsewhere already, that's going to be a big topic of discussion, I think, in the lead up to November 8th. And by the way, the Niners don't play the week before. So it might be 2 weeks of discussion going into that with the bye week. The trade deadline on the 10th.
If you're Mark Davis and you're willing to trade Max Crosby to the Niners, there's no way you do it before that game. Right? There's no chance.
I find it hard to believe he'd do it anyway. But I would agree with you. There's no way you would do it and allow for him to come back and play in that game for the 49ers. I guess I hadn't really thought of it. Our buddy Josh Dubow, we were talking a little bit at practice about this, I think on Saturday. That's the Raiders' first game back in the Bay since they left, going back to 2019. And obviously they played the Niners in 2018 at Levi's. The Niners have gone there in the preseason. They went there at the end of the 2022 season. But yeah, I
go there next week.
They go there next week again in the preseason. So yeah, that's interesting. I would not think that Mark Davis would do it at all, but he sure as heck wouldn't have Max Crosby opposite Nick Bosa on November the 8th.
Yeah, I don't think you want to trade him to the 49ers if you're Mark Davis, but is it a little different once you've already traded him to the Ravens? Like, you already traded him. maybe it's a little different now that you've already traded him. I don't know, but
well, and I don't want to. I mean, I don't want to overreact to one preseason game. And I thought there were parts in kind of scanning around and watching the Raiders that they look okay. But I also came away from watching them relatively emphatically and thinking, they're not going to be they're going to be very bad and looking to sell. Even if they are improved in terms of the overall operation, like they are still not going to be a team that's going to fancy themselves in the race come trade deadline. So I think they probably will look to move Max.
Be crazy not to trade Max.
Yeah,
if you can pass it, but like it's kind of, I mean, who knows? I wonder if they could get more if he gets back on the field and plays well. Like you've already traded him once. So how are you not trading him before the deadline this year?
There is that bar, though, because whatever you wind up trading him for now is going to be compared to what you did get then. And I think everybody would agree they got a hell of a haul then, and it's probably not going to be that now. And so, in essence, you're already taking less than you were willing to give him up with for before, and now you're doing that and maybe sending him somewhere even less desirable, I guess, factoring into the equation.
I mean, you're not in the same division. I mean, you're not in the same conference. You're not here anymore.
You're not playing him for another 4 years in all likelihood after that game.
Yeah, maybe he can go beat the Chargers for you. Like the Niners play the Chargers on Thursday night late in the year, right? That's after that deadline.
And they play the Chiefs too.
And they play the Chiefs on December 27th. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
So you could talk yourself into it that way, maybe.
All right. Final thought here with Guy Haberman. Anything else just from the joint practice for you that maybe stood out? I know, depending upon where you stand and how locked in you are and what side conversations you're having, it can be easy to miss certain things. But anything on either side of the ball that stood out to you that maybe we didn't get to?
I did have the thought, this is not really on either side of the ball, but just I've thought this the last several weeks, and I thought it again today. Watching George Kittle participate as a teammate during practice, he's pretty special. He is unlike anybody else in so many ways. He's a unique player, but he's really a unique teammate. It's his 10th year. Kyle Juszczyk's 10th year as well. It's his 10th year. He is so foundational. I don't think you can overstate what he brings to a team. He is high-fiving guys when they come back to the sideline after a play. He is shouting encouragement. His energy, he's walking around, he's talking to Brock. He's not distracting. He's not goofing. He's just engaged. He's wearing shorts and basketball shoes. And, he's just everything you want out of a core player. And how lucky are you if one of your core players plays tight end where the market is just lower to pay than edge rusher or receiver or quarterback? I mean, he is such he checks every box. Like I was just thinking about it today because I've just been noticing him and he's just really special. He's really special.
I mean, there's a reason why you have guys that you're willing to pay and then pay again. I think that's what it comes down to. And I think the 49ers are counting on those guys, whether it's him and Fred Warner. And I think a couple of others. All right. That's going to do it. Big thanks to Guy Haberman. Appreciate you, my man.
All right,
we'll
JD.
talk again soon.
Good to see you, man.
All right, Guy Haberman joining me here on the Sports Leader. We'll be back, and we will continue on the phone lines, 808 KNBR, as we head toward the finish line here on a Tuesday on the Sports Leader. Welcome back.
This is where we feed the faithful. Sportsphone, KNBR. Streaming live at twitch.tv/the Sports Leader.
I can't tell you how thankful I am, honestly, of like just how it recovered, and I really don't have to think about it much. It doesn't require any extra after practice treatment or anything like that. I mean, God is amazing in that way that I feel back to myself again, and I don't have to constantly be like, oh man, my leg's throbbing or something. It's honestly just regular football soreness at this point, and but when you don't play for over half a season, your body feels pretty fresh, and you just get to go out there and fly around.
Fred Warner feeling good as the 49ers season opener inching closer here. We're a little bit more than 3 weeks away from the 49ers and the Rams in Melbourne, Australia. Couple of days away from the Niners taking on the Chargers, preseason game number 2. Big thanks to Guy Haberman for joining me here on the program. Lengthy chat. Didn't intend to keep Guy for as long as we did, but we just kind of got rolling, and he was on hand down in El Segundo, and we'll be at SoFi on Thursday night. And, of course, we'll have that game for you right here on the Sports Leader. As I'll have a pregame, Adam Copeland and myself. I'll be joining Copes at 4 o'clock for that one. And then we'll keep you covered throughout the afternoon. And then Fitz on the call there for that preseason game number 2. And then Copes and I are going to have postgame for you here right after that one. Late kickoff, 7 o'clock down in Southern California. But we'll be all over it here on the Sports Leader. So good to hear from Fred Warner. Kalon Black was back at practice for the 49ers today. We're going to chat with Krug, too. He's got a special edition of Niners Nightly in the 9 o'clock hour tonight, preempted or at least postponed by the Giants' afternoon start in Cleveland. So Krug's coming up from 9 to 10. We'll talk with Krug, do a little face-off coming up in about 10 minutes here. And Krug was on hand as well down in El Segundo at the Bolt, what they call the Chargers practice facility down there, and we'll get Krug's early takes on everything that he saw as the Niners went at it for the second consecutive Tuesday after facing off against the Titans last week at Levi Stadium and the Performance Center there before preseason game number 1. A couple other just quick notes here on Kyle Shanahan and some of the things that he had to say. Mike Evans dealing with a little bit of tightness, again, that doesn't seem to be serious. There was some good news and questions with regard to Christian McCaffrey, and we did the whole debate yesterday. Is McCaffrey banged up? How close is he to coming back? Is it about the contract? Is it about the injury? Is it about this or that? And then there were reports, no, it's about the contract, or it's about the injury and not the contract. There was a lot of speculation that maybe there was something else afoot as it related to Christian McCaffrey, and Kyle Shanahan telling the assembled media down in Southern California that CMC's getting close. The absence not about the contract, the tightness that he's having, wouldn't divulge what exactly or where exactly that tightness is, but he had said, hey, if this had been a practice of a game week, that CMC would be out there, and made it sound as if the 49ers were playing a meaningful game coming up on Thursday, that Christian McCaffrey would be able to go. So I think that, at least for now, is a huge sigh of relief as it relates to Christian McCaffrey, who still, I think, right up there with Brock Purdy, is probably the 49ers' most important player on the roster, surely the most important offensive player on the entire roster. So Nick Bosa sounds like he's getting a little bit closer. Kittle set to be ready sooner rather than later, although I think in hearing him talk over the weekend, being down at 49er practice Saturday and Sunday, it feels like he's pretty accepting of the fate that maybe he's not going to quite be able to be there in Melbourne for week 1, although clearly at this stage not something that's completely off the table. Mykel Williams, farther away. Kyle Shanahan called it a long shot that Mykel Williams would be healthy and available as well. And so, that's something that I think is disappointing, although it had been trending in that direction with Michael Williams for some time, just based on the fact that he has not been out on the practice field working for the team or working with the team in an attempt to get ready for the season. If Michael Williams was going to be angling toward getting back, I think we would have seen him on the field to this point and would be ramping up. And we're getting to that point with George Kittle. The Niners are going to go through their walkthrough tomorrow, and Kyle did say that guys are going to play. Some of the starters are going to play in the game on Thursday. Sounds like that means Brock Purdy is going to play on Thursday, and so we'll see. Hopefully him and Dejon Stribling. I would imagine Mike Evans probably not going to be out there as he deals with this tightness. They've played Brock and not played Trent Williams before in the preseason, so I don't think those two things are necessarily going to be related. But Brock spoke today as well about it not being maybe the best day in the joint practice with the Chargers for the offense, and so we'll check in with Krug as it relates to what he saw there. We kind of got into it a little bit with Guy Haberman and his observations as somebody that will be on the call on the TV side from the 49ers broadcast team and what he had to say. And I'll ask Krug about the potential for a Brock Purdy leap, which was something that we got into with Guy Haberman as well. And still no word as to whether Jim Harbaugh actually got a chance to meet Brock Purdy. That was sort of the viral clip from the morning, was Jim Harbaugh just going on and on about how much he loved Brock Purdy, the player, and the way Brock Purdy conducts himself. And he just said he just loves his cool. He just plays the game very coolly, very calmly, and he was hoping that Kyle Shanahan could introduce him to Brock Purdy. So maybe we'll check in with Krug and see if they had a little meet and greet in front of the assembled media down there in Southern California. So those are some notes from the press conferences that I had jotted down, kind of watching them from afar here, getting ready for the Giants game and getting ready for the show. We'll speak to one of the guys that was there and get him ready for his show coming up. It's Krug, who's got Niners Nightly straight ahead. But first, one final timeout here. John Dickinson on a Tuesday here sitting in on Sportsphone on the Sports Leader.
This is where we feed the faithful. Sportsphone, KNBR. Streaming live at twitch.tv/The Sports Leader.
All right, welcome back. Final segment here. JD with you. Sportsphone on a Tuesday. Giants lose 8-1 to the Guardians. Let's throw that aside. We spent the better part of the first 90 minutes before Guy Haberman joined the program talking about that. But great to get Guy's take on everything that went down in El Segundo. And let's bring in our buddy Krug here, who's got a special edition of Niners Nightly coming up after this show. He's going to take you through the 9 o'clock hour. And Krug was down in El Segundo earlier, just getting it done. What's going on, buddy? Good to chat with you here for a second. The old face-off here with JD and Krug on a Tuesday night.
Seriously, and we can go as long as you want because I've got the whole next hour as well. The great Raj Melwani will join us from RSF 49ers, bottom of the hour in the 9 o'clock hour. We'll get his thoughts. But we got a lot to get to because I got up at 3 a.m. to get on the bird, to go to L.A., to watch the practice, and then birded back and got home at around 7 o'clock tonight, just in time to stream again on the Krug Show on YouTube and then be back here with you. And then, of course, we got Niners Nightly. So no days off. And yet the Niners may have taken a day off today because they didn't look too good.
Yeah, that was sort of the gist of what I had read, and then talking to Guy Haberman that it wasn't their best day, and Brock Purdy addressed it in terms of the offensive side, that it wasn't the offense's best day as well. But it's funny, before we get into some of the details on that, you grind the way I do, brother, and I know nobody wants to hear us, talking about how hard we work, right? But I walk into the facility and we're chatting Saturday before practice, and but walking out onto the field, and I think the first thing you hit me with was, I think I'm going down to L.A., man. Like I think I'm going to go to L.A. Like I'm going to make it happen. The joint practice. This is a big deal. And I can't tell you whether the Niner trips or the Warrior trips where I've said, you know what, I am going to get up at 3 a.m. and we're going to make sure that we're on the scene for all of the big stuff that happens. And so you do it as well or better than anybody. And just a hell of a day. And I know you wouldn't have it any other way.
Oh man, it was a great day. I saw Mike Shanahan, got a chance to talk a little bit to Jesse Sapolu, whose son Roman is coaching the Niners offensive line behind Chris Furster. And Jesse lives in Southern Cal, so he came out. There were a number of people there. Had a lengthy conversation today. I don't want to be a name dropper, but one of my favorite announcers is Kevin Burkhardt. And Kevin Burkhardt works with Brady, and he was there. And I've had Kev on the show before, and I've known him for a number of years. And so we just sat there for about a half hour on the field and just wrapped and talked about Brady, talked about their broadcast, talked about, the baseball roundtable that he does on Fox. And he's awesome, man. I think he's one of the most underrated, play-by-play guys. I mean, if you say great play-by-play guys, you're not going to say Burkhardt. But you know what? He creates a fun atmosphere. And he's when some people say, hey, the best compliment you can get is you're an easy watch or an easy listen. And that's what he is. He makes, I think him and Brady are really good. And I just told him, I said, man, Brady's worked at it. I mean, Brady stunk and now he's great. And, and he says, hey, look, Tom works at it. Tom wants to be good. I mean, this is how Tom Brady became Tom Brady, is that he's willing to work. And that's, I like to think that you and I are a little bit cut from the same cloth. We're not Tom Brady, but you know what? We'll embrace the grind, and we don't complain, and we get out there and do it. And it's a labor of love, and today was a great day because the Chargers give you lots of access. I said, hey, what parts of practice can you film? All of it. Oh, really? Where can I stand? Wherever the hell you want to stand. And I'm like sitting there going, hey, why don't you call up the Niner PR people and let them know this is the gig, because they ought to have this as their gig instead of, hey, excuse me, could you move 4 feet to the left and stand behind Austin Pleasant's left ass cheek? You know what I mean? Sorry, but I kind of prefer the Chargers approach.
Well, I was going to ask you about the facility there as well. And Haberman laid out how they would have these screens, or there was a screen to where after a play you could see the all 22 of the last play. Did you get in on that? And what did you think of that and just the Chargers facility overall?
Well, it's a beautiful facility. I mean, Jim Harbaugh spoke to us in the rest of the media room in this like glass, room that has an entire glass wall, and it's really nice. I mean, it's really nice. I don't know how big their building is. Nice fields, obviously Southern Cal has great weather, and they got fans, probably not quite as many fans there as what the Niners typically host for their fans. But on the defense, I watched the Niners offense against the Charger defense most of the time. But on the other side of the field, you had the Niners defense going against the Chargers offense, and that's where they had the all 22 on that side of the field. And it is kind of cool, I mean, I don't know that how many people really care about that all 22, but if you do, man, it's right there for you, and it adds to it. I kind of feel like maybe in the future, the 49ers are going to put up a big screen and let their fans have a better view. Because right now, they'll be like 2 football fields away. They'll have the players standing like a wall in front of the fans. So it's like, they could do a better job for their fans. That's for damn sure.
Let's get to some of the thoughts as far as just what stood out. I know Brock Purdy said it was a rough day. You've hinted at it being a rough day for the Niners. Guy Haberman hinted at it being a rough day for the Niners. I think he was more focused, like you were, on the Niner offense against the Charger defense, and then he put it as he would sort of look up and look at the other field, and all of a sudden you'd see like Samuz and Oz, or hear Samuz and Oz, and a Charger was going into the end zone against the Niner defense at a couple of different points. And then he'd look up and look at the replay on the all 22 before the next play. So he was trying to position himself between the two fields. But all in all, what stood out in terms of it not being the best day for the 49ers is they faced some stiffer competition, let's say, in the Chargers than last week when they faced off against the Titans and for the most part got the better of them.
Yeah, I mean, this is year one of the Titans program. It's a young team with a raw quarterback who really doesn't know how to play yet, and he holds the ball too long and doesn't process what he sees quick enough. And they're just in their development as an organization, they're just not there yet. They were 3-14 in each of the last 2 years. This Charger team is one of the Super Bowl favorites. They're stacked. They're loaded. And the Niners, with no Bosa, no Mikael Williams, couldn't do anything up front. They can't set the edge in the run game because they're going with all these smaller guys. Romello Heights, 240. Quentin Bell's kind of small. Ogbo Arankwo is about 250. They don't have, and they're going up against, Alt and Slater, their first-round draft choices. So you got the Chargers over there with first-round tackles on both sides. You got the Niners without their 2 top defensive ends. They're not putting pressure on Herbert. Herbert picked them apart. And then they couldn't set the edge in the run game, and the Chargers have a couple good runners. Omarion Hampton's a stud, and he rumbled all the way through them. Keaton Mitchell's really quick. So they couldn't stop the Chargers' running attack. And then the Chargers have big receivers, Trey Harris, Quentin Johnston, but they added this kid, Brennan Thompson from Wazoo. And this kid is one of the fastest players to come into the league in years. And, he just ran right through the Niners secondary. Jair Brown. I mean, the Niners have some guys who really are speed deficient in their secondary, and the real burners are going to bother them. And the Chargers have real burners. Brennan Thompson's electric fast. Keandre Lambert-Smith, 4.3 guy. Ladd McConkey's a 4.3 guy. Darius Davis is really fast. So I think the speed of, the Chargers bothered them. I think not having, your 2 top defensive ends, and Shanahan told us after practice that, Mikael might not be there week 1. He also told us that if this was week 1, that CMC and Bosa would be playing, which is what I've been saying the last couple of days, that they're not holding out and they're not hurt. They're not hurt. These guys, I just saw Nick Bosa sprinting on the sidelines 2 practices ago, like harder than I've ever seen him sprint. He's healthy. He's just, they don't want to waste him, and he's crucial to their season. CMC is coming off a year where he had 450 touches. There's nobody else in the NFL who's had 450 touches this decade. So, I mean, you got to respect the usage there. So I think they're just backing off. I think Shanahan basically admitted it today. Shanahan gives things away. He was asked the question, how are you concerned about Christian McCaffrey? And the question wasn't even fully asked. And he's like, no, I'm not. Well, why is he not? Because he's not hurt. Because they're voluntarily sitting him out. And this whole tightness, anybody's tight. I'm tight. You're tight. We're all tight. And tightness can be anything for anybody. That's just the coverall. And the Bosa thing, I'm not saying that CMC's not tight, but Shanahan said it after practice. If this was week 1, he would have played. If this was week 1, Bosa would have played. So those guys, I wouldn't worry about those guys. But Mikal might not be there week 1. And it doesn't sound like Kittle's going to be there week 1 either. So, we're all this talk about Bosa and CMC. I don't think we need to worry about those guys, but there are a couple other guys that probably aren't going to be there week 1. So yeah, I mean, overall, I would say it wasn't people love to be dramatic. It wasn't a disastrous performance. It wasn't like the 49ers I've already heard a couple people break this thing down and they're just dead wrong. It's like, what? You made it sound like the Niners just got absolutely taken out back and just whipped. Like they were just an embarrassment on this field, and everybody felt for them. No. That's just hyper negative. But the Niners do not have backups to Mikal and Bosa that can in any way replicate what those guys give you. So when those guys are out, they're not going to look as good, and those guys were out.
Well, and we talked a little bit about the Niners defensively, and as you listen to KNBR 104.5 FM, 680 AM San Francisco, the sports leader, Cumulus Media Station. JD here, end of Sportsphone. Krug coming up with a special later edition. I called it Niners Nightly After Dark. Is that you good with that?
Sure. Why not?
All right, yeah. Usually 6 o'clock, and I know, time goes on. We get into the fall. Sometimes 6 o'clock eventually is going to be during the dark. But here in the summer, it's Niners Nightly After Dark.
Yeah. Mike's a smart guy, and he knows that, people are fired up right now in the Bay for the Niners. The season's about to start, and the Giants are back east. So I would have been on, YouTube all week, basically, if we'd done YouTube. So he asked me last week, hey, would you come on after Sportsphone and bring some of the Niner dialogue to the radio? And I'm like, oh, hell yeah, let's do it. So, you know me, man. I'll talk Niners at 1 o'clock in the morning in the parking lot after we just watched 10 hours of Niners.
Yes, you will. And yes, we have, brother. One final thing here. It was actually 2 things that struck me, and it is a little unusual for teams to play in the preseason that are also going to play each other in the regular season. And I was thinking about it, and look, it's far enough off, 4 months, I guess, from yesterday, that the Niners are going to play, in December, right back at SoFi against the Chargers. It's going to be a Thursday night game, and so it's interesting because it's so unusual that you'll see that. And because of the Australia trip, I remember Kyle Shanahan explaining that he was like, hey, we need to play whoever. And they're playing the Raiders next week, and they play the Raiders in November, coming up right before the trade deadline. So because of Australia, the preseason schedule is maybe a little bit different than it ordinarily would have been with the teams that you're facing, and the Niners playing the AFC West this year. Is that nothing, anything, something on the Krug meter?
Well, yeah, I mean, it definitely is something. You're gonna be a little bit more cognizant about what you show, but it's so the way things go. It's such if it was week 1, 2, 3, or 4, I think this would be much more like we have to be very, very careful here. But when it's late in the year, I kind of think that it's a thought, and maybe if there's certain wrinkles that you want to throw at them, or they want to throw it at the 49ers. Maybe both teams would play their cards a little close to the vest. But then it's also about trying to get yourself ready for the season. And Mike McDaniel's a first-year coordinator there. I think it's really interesting that Harbaugh hired Mike McDaniel, because Harbaugh is a Bo Schembechler. He's Bo Schembechler.
They don't seem to fit. I was talking to Haberman about it. They don't seem to fit, but they both love running the ball.
Right. But you know what? I kind of wonder, are these guys going to throw blows at each other at some point this year? Because Harbaugh likes to give away one series, a game, where he just, bucks into the line and punts and is like, you know what? We're going to run. We're going to stick with our run game. And where McDaniel is typically more let it all hang out, and he takes more chances. He's less conservative. He's more, I think, innovative. It'll be interesting to see, if they get involved in some really close crunch time games, who wins out on the play calls, and do they have timeout issues? You remember when Harbaugh was here, he had one guy who called pass plays. He had another guy who called run plays, neither of which were him. And then he had final say, and they got to the Super Bowl and they gagged. They absolutely gagged in the Super Bowl. They had to call a timeout out of the 2-minute warning because they could not get a play called. That's how pathetic they were in that area. So I think it's something to look for, man, because there's stress. There's no stress in August. But guess what? You get involved in some tight games with the Chiefs and Broncos, and suddenly, McDaniel wants one thing and Harbaugh wants another. And, Harbaugh's got the final say. I mean, I don't know. We'll see how that relationship is. That a long-term deal? Is that a short-term deal? But I think this Charger team, I like them this year. They got a lot of talent. They really do. And I don't know about defensively. They've got some great players, Khalil Mack, Derwin James, a couple of, great individual players. But then, you look at that defense, JD, and you're like, Cam Hart, Elijah Molden, Tarheeb Still, Tony Jefferson. These are starters for them. Denzel Perriman, Tier Tart, Jamari Caldwell. I mean, these are not studs. These are not, Pro Bowlers. So they're going to have to get it going defensively. I mean, Chris O'Leary is the defensive coordinator, and we'll see how he does. But I think that if the Chargers defense is a representative defense, I think they're going to be a real player in the playoffs, because look at this team offensively. Marion Hampton, he's great. He's a tremendous back. And he trucked Jair Brown today. He just ran right over him. Herbert looks great. Aronda Gadsden, the Syracuse tight end, is really talented. They have Charlie Kohler here. They have David Njoku. They got a lot of receivers. They added speed. They already had size. They got 2 great tackles. So we'll see. But I think the Chargers are a live Super Bowl team for sure.
Yeah, and they look good today by all accounts, and you were on hand for it. So, Krug, I'm going to save the Brock Purdy question. I love doing this. We're going to be in the same spot again on Friday night, where I'm going to be on right before you with a little Niners Nightly, a little late night edition, a little after dark edition. So I'll hit you with my Brock Purdy question then, because I want to let you get rolling here. But I appreciate you hanging. Have a great show, my man. And we'll talk on Friday, if not before then.
Sounds good. We'll do it. We'll talk to you Friday. And coming up next, we can open up the lines if you want to talk some Niners. If you're driving around, you want to talk some Niner ball. 808 KNBR, the phone number. The great Raj Melwani from RSF 49ers is going to stop by as well. We'll get his thoughts on some of these topics, and we'll describe what happened today in greater detail at the joint practices. So it's all straight ahead, JD.
All right, Krug's got you covered coming up. Big thanks to Jacob Violante. Big thanks to Jordan Pratari. That's it for Sports Phone. Krug and Niners Nightly After Dark. It starts right now, right here on the Sports Leader.
It's time to bring the 49ers to the forefront.
It's go time. This is the best team that they can put on the field this year.
Welcome to Niners Nightly.
You guys are going to hear it. The latest from the locker room, the latest from the podium, the latest scuttle from the players.
On your proud home of 49ers football. Touchdown! KNBR, the sports leader. Your faithful fix with your host, Larry Kruger, begins.
We'll take phone calls. We'll talk Niners for a full hour. Fired up. Really excited.
Now.
And away we go. It is Niners Nightly, late night. Late night edition. As we come to you at 11 minutes after 9. We're already well on in our way to our 9 o'clock hour. But we open up the phone lines at 808 KNBR. And what do you think about the 49ers coming into this year? Today was a long day. Got up at 3 o'clock in the morning, flew to L.A. so I could be there for joint practices. And you say, Krug, you're a maniac. Well, you know what? The schedule this week, the Niners are off tomorrow, right? And then they play the game Thursday, which is, of course, that will be on TV, but that's almost kind of like an off day as well. And then they're off on Friday. So it's like, hey, you know what? If you cover the 49ers, today was the day. I mean, this was the day to, extend and be at the joint practice. And it did not disappoint. You know what was really interesting? There was not one fight. Not one. And I asked Harbaugh about it because Alex Boone told me last week that Harbaugh used to have a rule when he was with the Niners that if you threw a punch, you were fined $2,500. And he said Boone told us that one time he threw 3 punches in a game, and like Harbaugh's like, "Hey man, you owe us $7,500." And I asked Harbaugh about that today, and he's like, had no recollection. I don't know. I don't remember that. I don't know. Jim kind of an odd duck sometimes. But I asked him. I said, the Niners had 12 to 15 fights with the Titans. What's your approach to the practice? And he's like, hey, we're here to get work done. We're trying to get ready for the season. And they came out today, the Chargers did, and they were very professional. And then after the practice, I said to Shanahan, I'm like, Kyle, the last practice, you guys had 12 to 15 fights. None today, not one. Like, what'd you say to these guys? And he's like, I attribute it to the coach, the head coach of the Chargers is really professional. And he's taking a dig at Saleh, and everybody started laughing because we all know Saleh's his buddy. But Kyle also made a point. He's like, sometimes when the joint practices start with fisticuffs, that it just can't get out of that lane. It's like that's the tempo. That's the mood is guys are throwing hands. And I mean, watching Niners Titans last Thursday, it was like they fought on the 3rd play, and then the 5th play, and then the 7th play, and then the 8th play, and then the 10th play, and then the 12th. So they were throwing hands early, and it was the young Niner defense. The Niner offense weren't really fighting. It was the Niner defense, and the Niner defense is really young. Well, the Titans team is really young, and they're also not a Super Bowl contender. They've won 3 games in back-to-back years. So, maybe that's all they got is let's brawl it out with the Niners, where this Charger team is a Super Bowl contender, and they've got high expectations for their year, and they're trying to get things done. And I watched mostly the Niner offense against the Charger defense. The way their fields were set up, it was like back-to-back, and you had to choose one or the other. And I was just on the field side that had the Niner offense. And I thought the Niner offense looked pretty good. I asked Brock at the end of practice, I said, Brock, how'd you feel about it? And he's like, you know what? I didn't like it. I mean, he basically was pissed. He's like, we didn't play well at the end. Kyle's like, we looked pretty good early, but in the move the ball drill, we didn't move the ball. And in the red zone, we didn't score. And in the, the team drills, we didn't get the moves. We didn't make the kinds of plays that Kyle wanted to see them make. So he was not particularly happy. And obviously he said something to the team because Purdy talked to us after and basically echoed what Kyle said, which is like, hey, look, we got to be better than that. We weren't very sharp today. But the first part, I thought Brock was making a number of interesting plays. Sometimes he completes like a ridiculous percentage of his passes, like 80% of his passes. Today, that wasn't the case. The windows were tight. The coverage was tight. Derwin James is a stud. He's an amazing player, and he got his hands on a number of footballs. And I would say that the Niners, struggled to protect Brock Purdy. And then that also that's another weird thing about these joint practices. Like when you struggle to protect your quarterback, then it's like D linemen tag off on your quarterback, but the play continues. And then some of those plays, Brock Purdy threw balls down the field and connected, to Stribling or Evans or Demarcus Robinson. But we just saw Khalil Mack tag off on him. So it's like you put it down in your notes as that was a sack. But in reality, the play continued, and we got a Purdy to, Purdy to Jacob Cowing down the field pass play. So you got to kind of watch it and figure out what you're watching. Because, a lot of times the running backs, they don't tackle the running backs to the ground. They tag off on the running backs. So a lot of times the running back will get tagged off, but then he keeps running. And then maybe he runs 35 yards down the field. But was that a 35-yard run, or was that a 35-yard run after Nick Martin had a 3-yard loss in the backfield? You know what I mean? So the joint practices are hard to evaluate just in real time. If you sit there like the coaches and you can roll that film back and forth, and then you can say, okay, this is what actually happened on this play. This is what actually happened on that play. And they probably have a different account. Like the Niner coaches probably have a different account of how things went today. But I would say one thing that's really clear, when you take Nick Bosa and Mikael Williams off the field for the 49er defense, they don't have players that can replicate Nick Bosa and Mikael Williams. They didn't put any heat on Herbert. Herbert carved them up. Lots of pass plays. They also have lots of speed, and the Niners secondary is not a burning secondary. And Brennan Thompson, the Wazoo rookie, who runs like 4.32 or whatever, he's just super burner, probably one of the fastest guys we've seen come into the league in the last 2 or 3 years. He's running right by Jair Brown. It's just a mismatch as far as speed. So when you don't have Bosa and you don't have Mikael, you're not putting pressure. You're not putting pressure off the edges, and then you're not setting the edge in the run game. So we saw Marion Hampton and Keaton Mitchell just truck Niners and run away from them all day. Every time I looked over there on the binoculars, somebody was busting out a 15 or 20-yard run, and it's just because and it's not the 49ers are this horrible team, but they're missing Nick Bosa and Mikael Williams. And then the twos at defensive end are Sam O and Keon White. Keon's coming off an ankle. So then you got Quentin Bell. He's undersized. You got Romello Height. He's undersized. You got Ogbo Arankwo. He's a little bit undersized. So you got some guys off the street, the Xavier Thomas, Victor Dimukeje, Quentin Bell. These guys were signed off the street. They're not great players. They're street free agents. So, there's some issues there with depth on that defensive front. And the Niners have some special players, but if they don't have Nick Bosa and they don't have Mikael, they're not going to look as good. So defensively, I thought that was the issue. No Mikael, no Bosa, couldn't stop the run, couldn't set the edge in the run game, didn't burn the edge at Herbert, and Herbert did whatever the heck he wanted. Now, the one guy on defense that should have been given an award today is Osa Odigizua. What a phenomenal pickup Osa Odigizua is for the 49ers. Dallas traded a really good defensive tackle to the Niners in the prime of his career, and he dominated today. Oh, my God. Chargers have really good offensive tackles. Their interior is not the best, and Osa Odigizua, I probably counted 5 times that he tagged off on the quarterback. He probably had 5 sacks. He really was back there and giving them all they wanted. So he looked amazing and continues to just play at a really, really high level. But everybody else just okay. The linebackers weren't making tons of plays. The secondary looked like they were outgunned speed-wise. We saw a couple plays here and there. Upton Stout made one nice play. But it was the Niner defense got worked. I thought the Niner defense got kind of worked over pretty good. Now, on the other side of the field, the Niner offense, you don't have Christian McCaffrey, but what you did have today was Kalen Black. And, the 49ers don't just need good players out of this draft. They need great players. When was the last time the 49ers drafted a great player? Brock Purdy, if you want to call him that. Some people won't even call him that. The Niners 20. Look at the Niner 21 draft, 22 draft, 23 draft. There's nobody there. There's nothing there. They missed on those 3 drafts. They badly need great young players in the worst way. They don't need somebody who can make the team. They got enough guys who can make the team. They need somebody who's going to start. They need somebody who's going to star. You know, you look at their team. Kittle is a star, older. Bosa, star, older. Trent, star, older. CMC, star, older. Fred, star, older. Bosa, star, older. Drew Greenlaw, star, older. Who's their young stars? Well, today was a great day on that front because Kalon Black and Deshaun Stribling looked great today. Not good, not pretty good, not very good, great. Kalon Black is so quick, so explosive. He can block, he can catch. Watching Khalil Herbert and Zamir White and, just watching their Patrick Taylor and, watch Sincere McCormick and then put Kalon Black out there. It's like, whoa, this guy's running at a totally different speed. This guy's playing at a totally different level. The most exciting part, I think, about the Kalon Black thing, as far as people being impressed by him, what makes him so great is the power that he has in the legs. He's an amazing short yardage runner. But nobody knows that yet because most people who cover the Niners don't watch college football. And they didn't watch this guy at Indiana. They watched him a little, but they didn't watch him a lot. They don't realize most of the people who cover the Niners have no idea that Kalon Black is one of the best short yardage running backs to come into the league in quite a while. He's got power in those legs. That's his greatest strength. There's bigger backs. There's faster backs. There's backs that catch it out of the backfield better. There's backs that hit the hole harder. There's backs. But this guy, he averaged 3.2 yards after contact this year. That's a great number. That really is. And if you watch him, that's his thing. Where the Niner fans are going to love Kalon Black is that when you get to 3rd and 2, you can hand it to him, and he's going to get those 2 every time. Or in the 4th quarter of a game when you're looking to put the game away, and you don't want to put your defense back out there again. You want to finish the game with your offense. Kalon Black's going to get those extra yards. You saw, if you watched him in the Senior Bowl, you saw it. First play from the Senior Bowl, they blocked it for about 2-3 yards. He went for 5 or 6. It's a great second effort. Second play, the Senior Bowl, was blocked for like 5 or 6 yards. He runs his 5 or 6 yards, but wait a second, he's still going. Second effort, third effort. That run, he ran 8 yards, and he got the first down. So that's his greatest thing, man. He's such a strong back. He's such a good, he can push the pile. He can run through arm tackles. This guy is going to be the guy. He's going to be a continuity piece. He's going to be the reason that your offense stays on the field because he's going to convert those third downs. Does CMC have a weakness? Not many. But if there is one, he's not a great short yardage back. I mean, he's good in the red zone, don't get me wrong. But as far as pushing the pile and a real power driver, that's not CMC. That's not who he is. He can do it a little, but that's not his bag. This guy is a great complement to CMC. So Kalon Black, who's been out for about a week with a groin strain, they call it the adductor muscle now. It's no longer a groin. It's an adductor. So he was back and he was phenomenal today. Phenomenal. Just, up and down the field, hitting the hole, quick, powerful, explosive, decisive. Steve Weish did a whole thing on the NFL Network about the great backs that he saw today. And he's talking about Amarian Hampton. He's talking about this kid, Kalon Black. So that's number one. Number two, Deshaun Stribling is really, really exciting. Huge hands, over 10-inch hands. There's very few guys you can watch him in their uniform and say, wow, that guy's got big hands. Most people, you can't spot big hands. The average person can't say, oh, you know what, this guy's got 8 1/3 inch hands. And then somebody else could watch, oh, look at this guy, he's got 10-inch hands. Most people can't pick that out. But man, you can see this guy's gigantic mitts. And he is catching the ball so much like a veteran. I mean, most rookies don't make contested catches. They don't catch it in a crowd. They drop it. They juggle it. They don't catch it cleanly. This guy is catching the ball in traffic in the middle of the field, contested catches, ripping it away from veteran, DBs, and he's doing it regularly. And he's got 4.3 speed, and he's 6'3", and he's he's just totally undeterred by the step up from Ole Miss to the NFL. Most rookie receivers do nothing. Heck, Jerry Rice struggled as a rookie. He got it going, of course, in late in his rookie year, and of course we all know when he got it going, he never stopped going. But Jerry, if we had Jerry here right now, he would tell you, man, he struggled with concentration drops as a rookie. There's a lot going on. Your head's spinning. You're learning these plays. Being a wide receiver at the NFL level is like way, way, way more complexity to what you see at any college program. In college, they hold up like a purple card. This is your play. This is what you need to know. Purple. In the NFL, it's like, we need you to run this route, and it's got an option to it, and it's got to be run at 8 yards of depth, not 6, not 10. And if there's variables that come into the play. If depending on what the defense does, it's a lot more complicated. And so guys can't play fast because they're thinking. And if you're thinking, you're not running, and you're not playing top speed. And that's what Dejon Stribling should be, right? He should be a rookie wide receiver who's struggling with the complexity of an NFL offense. But no, he's not. He's catching everything that's thrown his way. He's making contested catches in the middle of the field. There's a bunch of guys giving him different nicknames. Somebody's like in the middle of one of the O linemen was like, what do they call him? Stribbler or something like that today. Way to go, Stribbler. But he's real, man. He is real. And he's real. Dejon Stribling and Kalen Black are not just going to be on the team. They're going to be major key cogs on the team. Kalen Black's going to be one of their better backs. He's RB2 for sure. Dejon Stribling may wind up being their best receiver this year. I know they have Mike Evans. I know they have Debo. I know they've got Demarcus Robinson looking great. They've got Jordan Watson. Stribling looks like he's got the potential to take over the number one gig here. So those two guys looked really good. Shanahan told us after practice that CMC is not holding out. It's not contractually related. He says he's still tight. They don't want to play him in August. Why would you? He's had 450 plus touches last year. No player in the NFL in the last decade has had even 400 touches. CMC had 450 plus when you count the playoffs. So hell, if you were going to use this guy in July and August, Shanahan said it today. I was telling people this the last 2 days. I'm like, he's not holding out, and he's not out because he's hurt. He's out because he's super valuable, and they can't afford to lose him, and it's the middle of August. And they don't play a real game until September the 10th. And Shanahan said it today after practice. He's like, if this was a week 1 game, CMC would be out there. And then he said, and by the way, the same thing goes for Bosa. So Bosa's not hurt. Bosa was sprinting full bore just 2 days ago. CMC tightness. I'm not saying he's not tight, but once again, Shanahan said it today. If this were a week 1 game, he'd be out there. They'd both be out there. So CMC is going to be there. Bosa is going to be there. The bigger concern is it doesn't look like Mikael Williams is going to be there week 1. And he may have to go on the PUP. And it doesn't look like George Kittle is going to be there week 1. And he may start on the PUP. So a lot of talk about Bosa and CMC. Will they be there? Will they not be there? Well, I think they're going to be there. But McKell and Kittle may not be there. And those are two key guys for the 49ers. Another guy who had a really nice day today, Deebo Samuel, looks terrific. He probably took the biggest pop of the day. But, man, he looks lean and mean. I don't think I've seen Deebo look this good physically since 2021 when he had his amazing year where he scored 14 touchdowns. So he looks primed for a big year. That would be odd if he had one, but I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that he could have a bounce back year. Trent Williams said it to us the other day. He's like, this is the best I've ever seen Deebo Samuel as far as sign this guy. You kidding me? He's got two modes. When he's out of shape, you don't want him. And when he's in shape, you desperately want him. And he's in shape. So that was a good thing. We saw that today as well. All right. We'll take a timeout. Raj Melwani is going to join us. He is the czar of all that is RSF 49ers. If you want to chime in, feel free. Bang the number, 808 KNBR. How do you feel about the Niners as we sit here in mid to late August, just a couple weeks from week one? Do you feel like this is a Super Bowl team? Do you feel like this is a team that's going to disappoint? 808 KNBR. If you want to chime in, we can take some of your calls. But we will welcome Raj Melwani to the KNBR airwaves next on the Sports Leader.
This is where you get your faithful fix. Niners Nightly with Larry Kruger keeps rolling on KNBR, the sports leader.
And we keep things rolling. It's Niners Nightly. Larry Kruger with you. Lengthy day today. Was in L.A. for the joint practices. We're back. And we're here doing Niners Nightly. And we welcome to the line Raj Melwani, who does an amazing job with running his YouTube channel and all that he does with RSF 49ers. You've probably read many of Raj's postings on the Niners, not even knowing that that's his deal, our RSF 49ers, and he's with us on the Uma guest line to talk some Niners after attending almost all of training camp. Raj, always great to have you, and today was a fun day. Niners and Chargers joint practice in Southern California, and it didn't sound like Shanahan was too pleased. Didn't sound like Brock Purdy was too pleased overall with kind of the way the Niners offense went about things. But I was just saying in the last segment, Dejon Stribling and Kalon Black, if there's something to be genuinely excited about, the 49ers have added significant players there. And who knows what they're going to contribute this year, but it's going to be big.
Hey, what's up, Larry? Yeah, no, it's always a pleasure getting on and chatting up with you. And I'm so excited for Stribling and Black. Today, Black first practice back, after dealing with the hip injury for a while. So it was good to see him, and he looked like he had a lot of juice in his legs. Stribling, oh, man, he looked great in preseason. He's building upon it. Whole business. I am so excited about Stribling. You know what? Both of those guys, the funny thing is, the media said that the Niners reached, and if they can prove themselves and showcase why the Niners really drafted them and have a great rookie season, they get the last laugh. So, yeah, it's nice to see both of those youngsters play good. We know we have a lot of good veteran stars on the team, McCaffrey and Debo and Kittle, et cetera, but we need some good young stars to be the next, Kittle and Debo and Warner, et cetera, like that. So good to see those guys playing good so far.
Yeah, I mean, how do you change your football team? You change your football team when you can add great players. I mean, would Seattle have won the Super Bowl last year without Nicky Manwari and without Gray Zabel, their starting guard? They got a great year out of Zabel at guard. They got an amazing year out of Manwari, who became this kind of chess piece, strong side linebacker with cornerback coverage ability, and allowed them to play all kinds of funky defenses. And Raj, I don't think Seattle wins last year. They definitely don't win as impressively as they did without those two guys. So having rookies that not just are on the team, but, can be like some of your better players, it can change the dynamic of your entire franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. You need impact rookies. You can't just have, rookies that are going to develop and maybe become a starter or a fringe starter. You need players that are going to become the next wave of your team, the next 4 players. Again, they have a lot of great players over the years like Kittle and everything, but eventually they're not going to be on the roster, and we need that next wave, and you have to have good young players that can kind of take the team to the next level, and I think we have them with those guys. We'll see. It is preseason. We'll see how it goes through the regular season, but so far, especially Stribling. I mean, Black hasn't played in the game yet. We saw him look, pretty good in training camp practice today, but Stribling, so far through everything, the mini camp, the training camp, everything has looked so good. And if he continues in this trajectory, he might be the guy to take the Niners over the top, just like Ewan Morey. So we'll see. I'm excited. Stribling has done nothing but great things so far. And I can't wait for week 2 of preseason, so I want to see him build upon last week. I mean, I wanted him to play the whole game last week.
Oh, I hear you. I mean, when you watch Stribling, the thought that quickly comes about is this guy their best receiver? Is this guy better than Mike Evans at this point? And he might be. I mean, obviously Evans is going to the Hall of Fame, but as far as impact this year, we're going to find out. Evans is interesting. He's a prolific receiver. He's had a little bit of a quad. He didn't finish practice today because of the quad. He didn't seem overly nervous about it. I kind of get the feeling that, because Shanahan and Lynch know that there's some age on this roster, that some of the guys who are, make up that age, Evans and Debo and some of the CMC, Bosa, they're not going to push it with these guys. Maybe in past years they would have, but they're just not going to. I mean, Mike Evans, I don't think had to come out of practice today, but you know what? They want to make sure that he's 100% for Australia. And, so they were, they're using extra, they're being extra cautious, but it's playing to a lot of the public like the Niners are a walking wounded. But I don't know, because I kind of feel like there's a handful of those guys on this injury list that aren't necessarily really hurt. They're just dinged, and they don't want to see a pull turn into a tear. And so they're just really taking it real slow with some of their veteran players. I think it's the wise move, really.
Yeah, I think it's a smart thing. It's like load management in the NBA. In the NFL, you can't really do that, but this is the way you get around it. You say, oh, yeah, he's got a soreness, he's got a pull, he's got a strain, or some minor injuries. And Mike Evans doesn't need to go to training camp practice. Yeah, he needs a guy to get in shape and, get his, rust off of him and stuff like that, which he's done. But he needs to make sure he's ready, doesn't have any major injury going into week one. Same thing with Bosa and, Christian McCaffrey, three of the best players in the league. And Mike Evans, Hall of Fame type player. This man has been, routing up people and doing so many great things over the years. He doesn't need to go to training camp to hone his craft. Just needs to make sure he's in shape. And I agree. If they were to go out there and put him in this, practice or play a preseason game, and then he, tears a quad, then we're screwed. So yeah, absolutely. It's just like a load management situation. And I think it's wise because we need to have a fully healthy roster coming into week one. That's a huge game right off the bat against a division rival all the way in Australia. So you have to start off on a good foot. And I think it's smart that, hey, he's out there, he's doing his thing. If he feels like he can't go, ice up, get out of there. Don't risk anything serious. I think it's okay.
Week one is already, there's enough juice on the line. It's Shanahan against McVay. It's Purdy against Stafford. It's the Niners against the Rams. It's two divisional opponents who don't like each other. They're historic rivals. So there's a lot there. But to even add more to it, now you've got the Rams and Niners with totally diametric opposite approaches to the travel, which is unprecedented, right? The travel's unprecedented. We've never seen an NFL team travel 17 hours away from their home stadium to play a game. And the Niners are going to get in there 9 days early and try to acclimate to Melbourne. And the Rams are going in there like they're Navy SEALs, and they're going to pretend like none of it matters, and they're going to roll in right before the game, play the game, and get on the bird and come back. I mean, the way this is going to go. Whoever wins the game is not just going to win the game. They're also going to kind of have we prepared the right way. They didn't, because they're not preparing the same. Which preparation plan do you like? I mean, I know we know that we're pro Niners here, but it doesn't mean you have to be pro Niners on every decision they make. Do you like their plan of let's get out there 9 days early and acclimate? Or do you like the Rams plan where they're like, hey, we're going to stay in our routine. We're going to train where we train. And the only change is going to be when we get on that plane. It's going to be a long flight to Melbourne. But that's going to be the first time that their week changes, where the Niners week is going to change before the week even starts. And they're going to have a lot more. They're not doing their routine. They're going to change up their routine. Well, the Rams are going to try to do their routine and then still have this monumental travel. Who do you think's got the better plan?
I think the Niners do. I'm not even being biased. Like, I've traveled internationally. I'm going to the game. I can't imagine, boom, going down one day, getting into the game, boom, leaving. It's like, I mean, I've done an overnighter, to LA or whatever, watch a game and stuff. But to play a game, to do an overnight 16-hour flight and then come back, that to me, I just don't think you'd even be in mentally in the zone. Like that's a tough flight, and it takes a few days to kind of get your mind right, get your body right. You get the jet lag. They're just gonna go there, play, come back. I don't know, man. I don't think that's a wise decision for the Rams. I think the Niners go in there, get themselves acquainted, get their bodies right, get their mind right, and be in Australia and then go to the game. I feel like they're going to be in a better zone, to play this game mentally. But again, if the Niners lose, the whole, all the talk is going to be, oh, see, they should have just went in, played like the Rams. Now they're ruining their routine for the rest of the season. So it's going to be interesting. But I think the right way to do it is the Niners, get your body right and get yourself prepared and, let your body acclimate to a new time zone. I've been to international places a lot. I've been all the way across the world. And I'll tell you, a day after a travel like that, your body's cast out. So I don't know. I think it's going to be tough on the Rams.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like I like the Niner plan better for winning week 1, right? Acclimating as opposed to not acclimating. I mean, I like the plan to acclimate. I think that's probably the smarter plan than just like rolling in the 11th hour and 16-hour flight and then you're playing a game the next day. That seems like the Rams are maybe going to be at a disadvantage. But I kind of like the Rams plan going into week 2 because the Rams, are they going to have body clock adjustments? I don't know. They're going to be kind of screwed up because they had all this travel at once. But the Niners are going to have to go. The Niners are going to have to get back on Pacific Standard Time from 9 days down under. Don't you think? I like the Niners advance. I think the Niners are doing the right thing as far as winning week 1, but I think the Rams might be doing the smarter thing to win in week 2. What do you think of that?
That's a good take. But I mean, at the same time, okay, so the Niners, they had their whole week, the 9 days, they get back. It's going to be a long flight back, but you don't have a game on Saturday. You don't have a game on Sunday. So you kind of do have a few days to kind of get your body right, get your mind right. And then Monday comes, new week, and, probably do a small little light activity. I feel by the time Monday, Tuesday rolls around, because then they don't really practice for the new week 2, till Wednesday. I feel like those couple of days is going to get your body back on course on the West Coast, So I feel like it's not that bad of an idea for the Niners to do that. And I get it. They're going to have to readjust to the West Coast time, Pacific Standard. But the Rams, I mean, come on. You're going all the way to another country, playing, coming back. You're just going to be zapped out of energy. And if you lose, you're going to be mentally just frustrated. You're going to be upset that you should have probably prepared right. So I don't know. I get where you're saying where, it doesn't take the Rams too much out of a, time zone standard from the West Coast. But I feel like it is going to have enough time for the 49ers when they come back after Melbourne to kind of get their body adjusted.
Yeah, no, I mean it's debatable, which is why we're having the debate, because it's it's hard to, we don't know. It's it's a little bit guesswork, right? Because it's unprecedented as far as this kind of travel. And the rest of the league is watching because, let's just say the Niners routed the Rams. What do you think is going to happen next time the team plays in Melbourne or plays in Sydney or something? They're going to do what the Niners did. They're going to go 9 days early because they're like, man, the Niners went 9 days early and they housed the Rams. But if the Rams destroy them, maybe it'll be like, hey, you know what? Don't go and do a big tourist thing like the Niners did. Stay on your schedule and treat it like a business trip. I don't know. It is going to be interesting to watch. That is for sure. Let's talk left guard for a second. The left guard position is wide open. So Trent Williams is your left tackle. Brendel's the center. Pooney's going to be the right guard. He was out today with a concussion. Colton McKivitz had a phenomenal year last year. If you look at some of the metrics, he's your starter at right tackle. There's going to be a new starter at left guard. It was Burford at the end of the year. And they won a playoff game in Philly. So it's not like they were an embarrassment at the end of the year, but then they got destroyed by Seattle, and Byron Murphy and Leonard Williams really killed them up front with power and strength. So what do you think? I mean, who do you want? They've given Robert Jones some run. They've given Carver Willis some run. He ran with the ones today. They've given Connor Colby some run. And now we're hearing John Feliciano is making rumblings that maybe he'd be willing to come out of retirement and play. And I don't know if I mean, how desperate are you? I mean, Feliciano hasn't played for 2 years, and he was pretty ordinary when he did play, and now he's going to be. You'd rather have if they go to Feliciano, that is not a good statement about Colby or Willis. That's for sure. Who should they play at left guard?
Absolutely. If
What's your plan at left guard?
If they get Feliciano and he takes the left guard spot, that tells you everything you need to know about this competition, which I don't really know who's going to win this spot. I think given those three options right now, that's the competition. I'm taking Robert Jones. He is the veteran. He's kind of been in this position. I'm not saying he's greater than them, but he's got more experience. Carver Willis, he's a rookie. You don't want to throw him into the fire. It's tough. Like, he still needs to develop. I wouldn't really trust him just yet. Maybe he could be a good player down the line. He still needs some development. And then, Connor Colby, I feel like he kind of fell off a cliff. He had the chance. They gave him the reins, and he fell off a cliff, and it's unfortunate for him. Maybe confidence-wise it's not there. I want him to get better. It does take time in this system, to become fluent in it and get yourself right and get the scheme down. It's a tough offense, for the linemen, for all the skill players. We saw Kittle talking about Luke Farrell, how it took him some time. And I think the same goes with the linemen. So it is tough. I would take Robert Jones, but honestly, I'm not confident with any three of them. I wish they would have put a lot more, stock into this position and really hunkered down on the line when it comes to the draft. In the future, I definitely think they need to make sure that they prioritize the O-line. You can't really trade for anybody. Nobody's going to give up a premium position like that. So hopefully Robert Jones can be the guy. That's who I'm taking right now. But maybe in the next couple of weeks, something can shake up Colby and Carver Willis and they can showcase themselves. But at the moment, gun in my head, going Robert Jones, Larry.
It's interesting. Buddy mine's a big Niner fan. And I said, hey, what'd you think of the Titans game? He's like, man, I don't watch preseason. It made me laugh. And I'm like, you don't watch preseason at all? He's like, no, man, I'm a week one guy. He's like, I listen to you. I listen to KNBR. I keep up with the Niners I live vicariously through you, Krug, and until we get to week one. But you're more like me. You went to camp a lot. I mean, you were at camp as much as almost anybody that's not an accredited media person. You were at camp a ton this year. Give me somebody that every camp, there's always some surprises. Who's the guy that you've been surprised by, either pleasantly or unpleasantly? It doesn't have to be somebody who's great. It could be somebody who you thought was going to be good, who's terrible. But give me somebody that because you watched a lot of camp, a lot of hours. What whose performance this summer has surprised you, good or bad?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Initially, I wasn't too high on Curtis Rourke, but as the days kind of grew on, he started stacking days, and then the preseason game came, I was really impressed with Curtis Rourke. He's kind of picked up this offense. Now, remember, he redshirted last year. This is pretty much his rookie season, so I feel like he's kind of picked up the offense well. He looked good in camp. A lot of the receivers, man, that sixth receiver spot's going to be tough. I saw Malik Turner. He had a great camp. Will Pauling, this guy was fantastic. So many days in camp. Irwin, that wide receiver, I don't think he makes the 53 roster, but that man made some nice plays throughout the training camp. Jack Jones, Trent Irwin. Jack Jones, man, this guy was a playmaker throughout training camp. So many times he had PBUs. I didn't really have any expectations for him, and he looked great. One guy that didn't look good, and he's going to really need to be on the practice squad, Enrique Cruz, the rookie lineman. I don't know if he's even meant for the NFL, but he's got some time to develop. He's going to have to spend a lot of time on the practice squad. There's a clip going around him. Romello Hyde on a training camp rep just blew right by him. I mean, he was not impressive. He's getting beat a lot in training camp, but there's so many guys, that really stood out. But there was a lot of guys that they kind of need this preseason, so it's going to be interesting to see. But the wide receivers, again, Pauling and Grimes. There's so many young wide receivers that I think could make this 53-man roster because that sixth spot is up for grabs.
Yeah, no, Jack Jones is a good name. I mean, he has gotten his hands on so many footballs this summer. I mean, he looked good the other day. I don't know if you were there when he was practicing doing punt returning. He looks like a really proficient punt returner. Like, I would totally trust him back there if they had to go to him. So
Yeah.
I don't think he's their first choice to be the punt returner, but he did it naturally. He's got his hands on a ton of footballs this summer. And he's just a big play guy. He trusts his instincts. He doesn't have the greatest size or speed, but he's one of those guys that shows up at the football and gets his hands on a lot of footballs. And it's he's been really, really good. I mean, he's the kind of guy that could really make an impact because when Jack Jones plays well, he picks off passes. He picks off passes. He changes possession. He's a difference maker that way. So he's been impressive to me. I'll tell you the guy that I've been impressed with just in the last few days, this Ogbo Okoronkwo. I mean, I know he was a street free agent. He's been around the block, and he's, it's not like this is his first rodeo. But man, he looks good. And I asked Kasarik about him, and he's like, the guy's got a great knack to understand the perfect leverage point. So even though he's 250, he still bull rushes 315-pound tackles into the lap of the quarterback because he understands the exact leverage point and where he needs to make contact with them. This guy's a genius rusher in some ways. Obviously he's been around the block, but he's best in a wide nine, and he had a couple good years in Cleveland. We'll see if he makes it. I mean, it's still kind of undetermined, but so far, in at least the one-on-ones, Raj, Okoronkwo is just putting on a clinic. Now, granted, he's beating Isaac Alarcon and he's beating guys that probably are not going to be in the league, but he's schooling them in a way that makes you think that, this guy's got something. The other guy is Jaden Duggar. I mean, he's 6'4", 6'5", 240, and he looks like a very athletic linebacker who can do a lot of things in space and maybe rush the passer. I asked Kasarik about him the other day, and he's like, man, the guy's got some length. He's got some bend. He's like, let's see what he's got. I love Chris because Chris is basically like, hey, man, I don't know if this guy can rush the passer or not, but he's got some traits, and let's put him out there and see what he's got. So they're going to give him a shot to rush the passer. And if he can do it, man, that will be a huge shot in the arm.
Absolutely. The Niners are
great
desperate for pass rushers outside of Nick Bosa, and we know he's, trying. Yeah, he looks like he could be that fifth-round gem. I like what I've seen out of him. That's a great pick there. We need help for Bosa. Anybody that could come off the edge and rush, is definitely someone that we need on this team. So good choice on that one. Been very impressed with him. So again, I want to see what he can do on the second preseason game. I feel like he flashed a lot in that first preseason game, but he's looked really good training camp. So another guy, probably not a surprise, but Osa Odigizua, man, this man has been living in the backfield all training camp and nothing. Oh man, unbelievable.
What a day he had today. 5 or 6 sacks. He's back there constantly. I mean, Niners didn't have edge rushers today, and it showed. They couldn't stop the run. They didn't burn the edge against Herbert and keep him in the pocket at all. But, man, Odigizua, I mean, he was just putting on a clinic. Man, the Cowboys probably should not have traded Odigizua. I mean, I think that might come back to burn them because he has been like as good as almost any player on the field this year for the 49ers, at least in the summer. Last one. Do you think that Niners Chargers Thursday night, is that in any way a Super Bowl preview? And if not, give me the two teams that you could picture being in the Super Bowl as we sit here, in mid to late August.
I mean, the Chargers are a great team. They got a great coaching staff. Will the defense rise up? We'll see. The X factor for the Chargers is Justin Herbert. He hasn't really won in the playoffs, right? He's gets great stats in the regular season. People say he's one of the best quarterbacks, and the playoffs comes, turns into a pumpkin. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I do think they could make a run. That AFC West is tough. You got the Chiefs. You got the Broncos. The Raiders look improved this year, so it's going to be a tough division. By the time they get to the playoffs, might be beat up. It's just like the NFC West. It's such a tough division. I do like the Bengals because they play in an easier division. But then again, can Joe Burrow stay healthy? I feel like if he stays healthy, he could take that team to the Super Bowl. I like the Broncos. Bo Nix, health is going to be a concern. And I absolutely love the Texans, but I don't like C.J. Stroud. So those are the teams I really feel could make a run. You got to throw the Bills in there, but then Josh Allen, just like Herbert, kind of falls apart in the playoffs. So I love the Niners. We all know that they have a shot. Health is wealth for them. Anybody in the NFC West can probably make the Super Bowl, except Arizona Cardinals. So it's going to be interesting. I'm excited. It's going to be a wide open year. There's so many great teams this year.
What if we get a third Niners-Bengals? Wouldn't that be something? And the Bengals, they've added Dexter Lawrence. They added Jonathan Allen. They added Boye Mafe. Mafe's having a great summer. They added Cassius Howell. They added a number of players on defense, and we know, heck, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. They got some talent on offense. Is almost as good as anybody in the sport. Raj, we'll let you go, man. Always a pleasure to chop it up and talk ball with you. We'll do it again. Appreciate you.
Awesome, man. Always a pleasure. Thanks, Larry. Take care of yourself.
Thanks, Raj. Have a great night, man. Appreciate Raj Melwani. Check him out on YouTube, on Instagram, RSF49ers. He is the guy. That's his platform. All right, that is going to do it for us. Thanks to Jacob Violante. Thanks to JD, who was with us earlier. Thanks to Raj. And thanks to you guys. Hour went quick. Hope you enjoyed it. We're back tomorrow with more. And we'll, Niners Nightly every night at 6:00 when we're not on 6:00 on YouTube. Sometimes we're going to do some of these late night after sports phones. So look for that as well. And it's always a pleasure to talk Niner football with the KNBR audience. So that's going to do it for us. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow on the Sports Leader.